So there I was, standing on an island the size of a parking space, watching the ocean plan my funeral. 2 meters by 2 meters. That was the whole kingdom. One tree, one rock, one black stone tablet, and a fishing net so torn it looked like it had personally survived a divorce. 10 minutes ago, I was in an office in Tianhang City, reporting quarterly numbers to my gorgeous boss. Quality operations specialist. Spreadsheets, air conditioning, a future. Then the sky flashed white like somebody threw a flashbang across the entire map, and when my eyes cleared, the office was gone and the sea was everywhere. My name's Li Ming. Welcome to the worst relocation package in history. Let me back up because you need to understand exactly how doomed I looked. I walked over to the black tablet in the middle. The thing lit up with a screen. 5 tabs across the top. Public channel, private channel, trading hall, map, construction. I clicked the map first, obviously, because I wanted to know where the exit was. There was no exit, just one glowing dot, me. A tiny circle of lit-up water around my tiny circle of sand, and past that, nothing. Black in every direction. I clicked the other 4 tabs and they were all blank. Cool, very cool, great tutorial, no notes. Then the public channel woke up, and that's when I realized I wasn't the only sucker who got teleported. It filled up fast. How did we end up at sea? I'm starving. One wave could drown me. I want my mom. Hundreds of strangers, all screaming into the same group chat, all standing on their own 2-meter death trap somewhere out in the dark. I'm gonna call these people the NPCs, because you're about to meet them a lot. And every single time they open their mouths, it's a masterclass in doing the wrong thing loudly. Somebody typed, "Stop wasting time, grab the supply crate from the sea, that's where the supplies are." And the whole channel went quiet. Everybody sprinted off to go fishing, including me. There was a crate bobbing in the water maybe a meter out. I looked at the torn net on the beach. I looked at the crate. Survival test, I figured. Fine. I grabbed the net, wound up like a major league pitcher, and threw. It flew out like a wet ball of yarn, flopped next to the crate, and sank. Didn't even open. Again. Same yarn ball. Again. Same result. Turns out casting a net is an actual skill, and I'm an office guy whose only cardio was walking to the printer. Swimming for it was out too, because the shore of my island dropped straight down into a bottomless nothing. My island wasn't a beach. It was a 2-meter concrete pillar rising out of the void. The void was hungry. So I stood there, holding a broken net, outthrown by a box. And that's the exact second a voice went off in my skull. Beep! Sign-in system activated. I froze. Sign-in? System? Because if you've read a single one of these stories, you know that word. That's the word that separates the main character from the meat. Sign-in successful. Fully automatic fishing net acquired. I nearly cried. Take it out, I said, and a little machine the size of a go-kart appeared on my sand. The system narrated it for me, and this is where I learned my golden power. Every object I look at, I get the description. Nobody else can. Everybody else is playing this game blindfolded. I'm playing it with the guidebook open. Fully automatic fishing net, SS-class tool. Set its patrol route and target. It catches and hauls back anything within a 320-meter radius. 320 meters. The NPCs were out there throwing yarn balls 10 feet and losing. I just got a robot with the range of a small navy. I photographed the nearest crate with the machine's built-in camera, drew a patrol lap around my postage stamp island, and hit run. The net shot out of the go-kart's belly like a giant mouth, swallowed the crate, and reeled it back in under 10 seconds. Then it beeped, retracted, and kept patrolling. Just vibing, doing my job for me. I could have kissed it. I did not because I have standards. But it was close. I opened the crate. 2 keystones, 2 planks, 2 bottles of water, 1 sad little roll of bread. And the second I looked at the keystones, the guidebook power kicked in and my good mood evaporated. Keystone. Increases island area by 1 square meter. Warning, expand your island as soon as possible. The sea submerges 1 square meter every week. Read that again with me. 1 square meter. Every week. My island was 6 squares of walkable dirt. That's a countdown clock. 4 weeks, tops. The ocean swallows the whole thing with me standing on it. And a person floating in open water, best case no sharks, lasts 5 or 6 days. The sea wasn't a setting. It was a landlord. It was evicting everybody, 1 square meter at a time. So the game was simple: expand or drown. I walked the keystones to the tablet, hit the build page, and 2 of my precious squares turned into 3. My island went from a square to a slightly bigger rectangle. Riveting real estate. Then I flipped back to the group chat to see how the neighbors were doing. They were not doing. Did that guy come back from swimming? There's a shark by his crate. Can't I just wait for it to wash ashore? You're dreaming, they drift farther away. One guy swore he'd swim out and push a crate back. He came back empty-handed and shaking. There's a 2-meter sea snake by it. Then, the sentence that would define this entire channel. I'm so hungry. I'm so thirsty. What do we do? Nobody had a plan. Everybody had a complaint. A self-described Shanghai billionaire offered half his 10 billion yuan fortune for a slice of bread. Somebody pointed out that his 10 billion was now worth exactly 1 slice of bread, which is to say, nothing. A Beijing socialite offered to do anything for water. A guy answered, "Get lost, I don't even have water myself, but see you later, heh." Standard internet behavior, honestly. Civilization was 3 hours old and already down to horny bartering. Here's the deal. I want you to sit with it. Every one of those people had the same island I did, same tree, same rock, same tablet. The only difference between me and the guy digging a hole to bury himself for warmth was one voice in my head that said, "Sign in." That's it. That's the whole gap. And I was about to ride that gap all the way to owning the ocean. But first I had to deal with a much bigger problem than sharks. My girlfriend. Her name's Hua Qing. 4 years, all through college. After we graduated, she asked me, gently, sweetly, to come work at her family's company. And her family's company was the kind of rich where, come work here means, let me quietly carry your entire life. Something in my chest, some stupid, stubborn male thing, said no. Her parents loved me. There was no evil dad, no interference, no drama. Just me, deciding I'd rather build something of my own than be handed hers, and walking away from the kindest person I'd ever met. Great call past me, really aged well. Now she's out there on some 2-meter pillar in the same dark ocean. She can't cast a net. I have no idea if she's already gone. I set my chat ID to Wang Jian, the handle I used all through university, the one she'd recognize. I typed one message. Hua Qing, if you see this, message me privately. And the channel swallowed it in half a second, buried under 1,000 people screaming for water. When I tried to send it again, the tablet told me to wait. Too many messages. Anti-spam, of course. I looked out at the sea. I said it out loud, to nobody, to her. I'll survive. I'll find you. Wait for me. And then, because grief doesn't pay rent, I got back to work. Because to cross an ocean and find one specific person, I don't need a boat. I need a fleet. And to build a fleet, I needed to turn 6 square meters of dirt into an empire. Let's go! The AutoNet beeped. Another crate hauled in while I was busy having feelings. This one had a water purifier blueprint, grade A, and a bar of chocolate. The purifier needed glass, linen, charcoal, and metal shards, none of which I had. So I filed it under later. But water is the real clock. You die in 3 days without it. Food, you can limp a month. So the purifier jumped straight to the top of the list, right behind don't drown. Next crate, 2 apples. The guidebook casually told me these apples had a rank, grade A. Ranked food is more delicious and improves your physiology. So I took a bite of a magic apple. Best thing I'd ever tasted. Then heat rolled through my arms and bones, like someone had upgraded my character sheet. I finished it, and suddenly I could move those empty crates around like they were made of cardboard. 1 apple and I went from office guy to gym rat. Then I cracked the core open, got 2 grade A apple seeds. My little farmer brain lit up, because the crate had also coughed up grade A soil, and grade A soil grows grade A plants. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thinking about crops. Meanwhile, the neighbors were still workshopping how to not starve. One clever guy, I.D. Guo Tianhang Yi, was actually giving decent advice, telling people to tie the net into a triangle and toss it like ring toss. Genuinely helpful. Necessity really is the mother of invention. The working class is smarter than anybody gives it credit for. Then the channel emptied out as everybody ran off to play ring toss with their dinner. Beautiful. Touching. Doomed. My net beeped again. Fish this time. 2 eagle pomfret, grade A ingredient. Delicious even grilled plain. And I stood there holding 2 gorgeous fish with exactly 0 way to make fire. No dry grass, no lighter, no flint. The trees weren't even dead wood. I'm from Xia Kingdom. I don't do raw fish, and there's no hospital out here for when my stomach files a complaint. So I hung the fish on a string of net thread and went to bed hungry next to 2 perfect meals I couldn't cook. That's the survival genre for you. It gives you the steak and takes the stove. Night came. It was cold. The channel turned into a support group for people freezing in the dark. Starting a fire is impossible. Dig a hole and lie in it. What if you dig through and drown? I already tried, it's fine. How'd you dig it, with your hands? Use your feet. I curled up inside an empty supply crate, legs hanging out the end, box hard against my back. And honestly, compared to the guy digging a foxhole with his feet, I was living in a penthouse. I fell asleep listening to 100 strangers negotiate the price of not dying. Morning. Waves slapping. The calm sea from yesterday was now rolling. I had a brief, cold thought about high tide eating my island while I slept, but the net had worked all night. 3 more fish. And then, the magic word. Sign in. Sign in successful. You've received the multifunctional toolbox. I pulled a briefcase out of thin air, popped it open, and there it was. A utility knife, a hammer, a chainsaw, an electric drill, and a little cauterizing torch. A fire starter. S-class. The system's only note was that it needed manual operation, no automation, which, sure, buddy, I'll do the labor, just give me the fire. First thing I did was gut a fish with the scissors, jam a piece of wood under the torch, and grill it. And I want to be honest with you about my cooking because it's going to come up. The wood burned through before the fish was done. One whole side went black. I ate the non-charcoal half, called it 60% full, and saved the rest, because a magic apple aside, food's still food. Then I scooped up the ashes and the system went, item obtained, charcoal times 2. Charcoal. One of the 4 ingredients for my water purifier. My garbage cooking was accidentally a supply chain. 3 more burnt fish and I'd have a working water plant. Small wins. That's the whole game right now. Small wins stacked on a shrinking floor. Then I got greedy and productive at the same time. I set the auto net to scattercast for fish, no target, since it costs me nothing. I chainsawed the empty crates into 18 planks. I dropped the 1 palm tree on the island. The second it hit the sand, the whole tree just dissolved into a neat stack of wood, leaves, and bark. That's the island monument's magic, by the way. Do the right action, get the clean result, no processing. It's why the system told me to protect the tablet with my life. Without it, I'm a guy hitting a box with my foot. With it, I'm a factory. Speaking of hitting a box with my foot, I tried to break down a crate the manual way earlier before I had the chainsaw. Kicked it as hard as I could. The box was fine. My foot went numb. That's really sturdy, I said to no one, hopping. Lesson learned, tools, not toes. I built myself a little hut. And I mean little. No nails because nails cost metal shards and I had 5. So I dug a trench, jammed planks in it, laid 2 planks on top for a roof, then stood back to admire my architecture. Then I lay down inside it, looked up at the roof 6 inches from my face and said, not bad, at least it keeps the wind out. The sea heard me. A gust rolled in. The whole hut shuddered. No way, I said. The roof plank dropped straight onto my face. Is that a real-life example of getting slapped by your own words? Because it felt like one. I pushed the plank off, looked at the pile of sticks that used to be my home, and accepted that maybe a trench and vibes wasn't load-bearing architecture. From now on, I build through the tablet. Blueprints only. Which meant I needed to go shopping. Time to open the store. The trading hall was full of desperation. Everybody was selling everything for food and water. And I looked at my string of burnt fish and my pile of shark bait in waiting and realized something the NPCs hadn't. In a world where everybody's starving, the guy who can cook is a king. I posted 13 listings at once. 10 grams of roasted fish for 1 metal shard. 10 grams for 1 linen. 10 grams for 1 glass. The channel lost its mind. Someone's trading roasted fish for supplies? Which big boss is eating grilled fish already? I haven't caught a single crate. Nobody read the word burnt. They'd been starving for a day. Charcoal fish is still fish. I ignored the flattery, ignored the begging, and watched the trades roll in. Metal shards, glass, linen. My burnt cooking was building my water plant one bad fillet at a time. And then the tablet flashed red. A warning sound. Warning, keystone under attack. My stomach dropped. I clicked it. The map zoomed in. The keystone in the southwest corner was blinking. I grabbed the chainsaw and ran, and when I got to the edge, there was a shadow under the water the size of a canoe, slamming itself into my island over and over. Something big had decided to eat my house. I needed reach. I sprinted back to the tablet, cranked out 2 long spears, wood and metal, 2 meters each, and ran back. The shadow was still down there ramming my foundation. I did the math on the light bending in the water, aimed low, and drove the spear down with everything I had. It hit. Something huge. Blood bloomed up through the surface. The thing thrashed so hard the spear ripped out of my hands and vanished. Trying to run? I grabbed the second spear, and this time I threw it, and remember I'd eaten a magic apple, so this wasn't office guy strength anymore. The spear punched clean into the shadow. The thing bolted for open water with 2 spears sticking out of it like a very angry pincushion. But it was running in a straight line, and I own a robot with a 320-meter arm. I set the 2 floating spears as the net's target and fired. The net calculated the lead, flew out, threaded right between the spears, and scooped the whole shadow up. 10 seconds later, it dragged the thing to shore. I finally saw what had been trying to demolish my home. A shark. Over 2 meters, still snapping. Still arrogant on land? I kept my distance, revved the chainsaw, and I'll spare you the details, but by the end there were 8 pieces of shark and 1 very calm me. It all dissolved into loot. 100 kilograms of shark meat, 400 grams of shark fin, and a cold new fact to sit with. The ocean doesn't just rise, it bites. That shark hadn't wandered close by accident. I'd gutted a fish in that exact corner. The blood called it in, which meant every time I cooked, I was ringing a dinner bell. I was on the menu. Note taken. Expand the island. Get some room to breathe before the next thing bigger than me shows up. I salt-cured what I could, hung the meat under the eaves, and got back to grinding. I hammered and drilled the 1 rock on the island into 5 stone blocks. I ate the last of my bread and the cola, got full and sleepy, and that's the collapse hut incident I already told you about. Fool me once. Then the trading hall started paying off. I flipped shark meat and burnt fish into a pile of metal shards and linen. A stranger DM'd me a grade C barbecue grill blueprint, which was a massive upgrade over cooking on a burning stick, and all he wanted was food. I grilled him a fish, covered my face in shame at how burnt it was, slapped a note on it that said, "A little burnt, but it'll fill your stomach," and sent it. He took it happily. Then he asked to be friends. His name popped up. I did a double take. Ye Liu. Because that's my boss's name. My young, gorgeous, weirdly nice to her employee's boss. So before I clicked accept, I asked what company he worked at, and the answer came back, Xingtian E-Commerce, Tianhang City. My company. My boss. Same ocean, same nightmare, and I'd just sold her a burnt fish without knowing it. I accepted. She immediately video called, and there she was. The pristine, white-collar queen who used to run a whole company, now covered in dirt, thin, exhausted, staring at me like I was a life raft. "It's so good to see someone," she said. "What happened? How did we get here?" I told her the truth. Transmigration, probably. Looks like a game, plays like a game, except when you die out here, you actually die. She was almost in tears. She could run a boardroom in her sleep, and she was completely helpless at a survival game. I watched the exact moment she realized it. So I did the thing that mattered. I gave her the rules. I told her the island sinks, 1 square meter a week. I told her the keystones expand it. I told her the tree and rock become resources through the tablet. Everything the guidebook had shown me and no one else could see, I handed to her for free. And here's what made me trust her. She didn't beg. She had every reason to. She was starving, she couldn't swim, she was terrified. And all she said was, "Thank you. If you hadn't told me, I'd have wasted all my time and drowned. I need to go eat and catch crates." No angling for my food. No, please just give me a keystone. Somebody who knows when to lean on you and when to stand on her own. Rare, very rare. Out here, it might as well be extinct. Then I looked at her sad, tattered fishing net and told her to trade it to me. She figured it out instantly. 2 broken nets combine into 1 working net. She handed hers over without a second of hesitation. I combined them through the tablet into a clean grade C net that catches everything inside 20 meters. I traded it straight back to her. She stared at the description like it was a scam. This is too precious. She wanted to give it back. She was not the kind of woman who takes handouts. Keep it, I told her. I've got other ways to catch crates. I don't even use a net here. Catch something good later, give me a discount. So she caved. She made it a partnership on the spot. 50-50 on everything the crates give us. I get first pick of anything rare. And she made a quiet little vow to herself that I wasn't supposed to hear, that she'd find me a mountain of metal shards to pay me back for saving her life. She's going to be a problem later, the good kind. But we'll get there. Because here's the thing about giving away a fishing net. It's not charity. It's infrastructure. Every ally with a working net is another crate machine feeding my supply chain. I take a cut of the good stuff. I wasn't being nice. I mean, I was being nice. But I was also being the guy who owns the fishing net factory. You can do both. That's the trick nobody in the group chat ever figured out. Ye Liu called back an hour later, glowing. She'd caught a crate with a keystone in it. Per our deal, half was mine. There are two, we each take one, she said. I told her to keep both. Her island was smaller. She refused. So I made her a counter. What else is in the crate? 6 metal shards. I'll take the 6 shards, you keep the keystone. She hesitated, then thanked me because she knew exactly what I'd just done. I needed shards anyway, and this way she got to keep her island alive and keep her dignity. Everybody wins. Especially me, quietly. Then she expanded her island for the first time, watched a square meter of dirt appear out of nothing. I heard this tiny, stunned, "It really works?" over the call. Yeah, it really works. Now go get me my shards. Trades kept closing. Linen, 30 metal shards, everything the water purifier and the wooden cabin needed, plus extra. So I built. I put down a real wooden cabin. Grade C, 4 square meters, walls, a window, a door. The whole thing wrapped around the tablet, so I could check the guidebook without leaving home. I patted the wall and it went thump, solid, nothing like my trench and prayer disaster. I built the water purifier inside and fed it seawater. It started dripping out clean drinking water, 80 milliliters an hour, and just like that, the 3-day death clock stopped ticking. I opened the window, watched the sun sink into the sea, and said the truest thing I'd said all day. So beautiful, so dangerous. I tried eating the shark meat, by the way. Cut a piece, grilled it, took a bite, and immediately gagged. It smelled like a public urinal. 100 kilos of the stuff, and it tastes like regret. So I did what any tycoon does with a warehouse full of product he can't stand. I sold it. Listed it in the trading hall. The channel went feral again. Did someone fill a shark? Impossible. Humans get eaten by sharks, not the other way around. Then explain the shark meat. He probably found a dead one. One guy insisted you could kill a shark with a long spear. Another guy told him to go jump in the ocean and prove it. The whole thing dissolved into a slap fight. Meanwhile, I quietly turned garbage meat into bricks. My "Find Hua Qing" message got buried again under the noise. It always did. Ye Lu called to scold me gently. Everyone's fighting to find food and you're out here being a picky eater. Comparisons really are odious. I told her I just had good luck. The sign-in was my luck. But she didn't need to know that. Luck is a kind of strength, she said, and read way too much into it. I let her. Then I had the most human problem of all. I'd eaten well for 2 straight days while everyone else starved. My body had reached a certain limit. And there is no bathroom on a 6 square meter island. Do it on the dirt. Gross. Do it in the ocean, and you ring the shark bell again. I was genuinely stuck on this, staring at the sea, doing the worst math of my life, when my private channel lit up. A guy offered me an outhouse blueprint, grade D, and I lit up like a godsend had arrived, until he named his price. 10 kilos of shark meat and 5 liters of purified water. For an outhouse, my drinking water, the stuff keeping me alive. I went cold. Your appetite's a little large. He got smug. You'll come back to me. I'm the only one with this blueprint. I blocked him. I can't handle something this simple myself. Watch me. And then I went to bed on a hard floor with a full bladder and a bruised ego, muttering that I really needed to buy a bed blueprint. Next morning, I woke up sore, ate my last magic apple, felt the warm upgrade roll through my bones again, and had exactly one thought about the bathroom situation. Sign in. Sign in successful. You've received a fully automatic flush toilet. Fully automatic flush toilet. SS-grade furniture. You handle your business, it handles everything else. Auto-flush, auto-clean, auto-sterilize, auto-deodorize, every single time. System, I said out loud with my whole heart, I love you. I hand-built a little shed onto the cabin, dropped the throne inside, and finally resolved the internal conflict of the last 2 days. And when I walked out, I was still muttering, because the system's product was so premium, it even flushed away tree bark without clogging. Somewhere out there, a guy was trying to sell me a grade D outhouse for 5 liters of water. Enjoy the wait, buddy. 2 days in, I had a cabin, a water plant, a bathroom fit for an emperor, a robot that fished while I slept, a business partner who used to sign my paychecks, and a group chat full of people who still hadn't figured out fire. The ocean was still eating a square meter a week, and somewhere out in that dark water was the one person I actually crossed a world to find. The floor was still shrinking, but for the first time since the flashbang, I wasn't standing on it and waiting. I was building on it. And out there in the dark, other players were starting to get clever too. One of them was about to teach me a trick that turned my whole business upside down. Another was about to do something with his island that I didn't even know was possible. The ocean was getting crowded, and I hadn't even seen the black dot on the horizon yet. So let me tell you about the day I became my own competition. It started with the fisherman. His ID was Zhang Bo, the guy who'd first suggested combining 2 broken nets into one. He DM'd me to buy shark meat. Fine. We traded. 2 keystones for 500 grams. Good deal for me. Shark meat rots and keystones don't. Then I glanced at the trading hall and my brain short-circuited. Zhang Bo had immediately relisted that exact shark meat, untouched, and he'd priced it lower than mine. I was selling 500 grams for 25 metal shards. He was selling the same meat for 20. He wasn't eating it, he was flipping it, and undercutting me while he did it. Is this guy trying to start a price war? I muttered. But no, that didn't add up. If he wanted profit, he'd charge more, not less. He was dumping my own meat back into the market at a discount to grab metal shards as fast as physically possible, which meant he needed a specific pile of metal shards for a specific thing. He needed it now. What are you building, fisherman? I couldn't see his island. I had no idea, so I did the only smart thing. I stole his trick. His cheap shark meat sold out in minutes. 20 shards gone. Easy. So I posted a fresh batch at his exact price, right next to my old batch at the higher price. 2 listings. 2 big bosses. And because the trading hall lets you post anonymously, nobody knew both bosses were the same sweaty office guy in a wooden cabin. The channel ate it up. 2 big bosses selling shark meat. Competition brings discounts, baby. When 2 giants fight, we feast. One guy pointed out he still couldn't afford either one because he had 0 metal shards and hadn't caught a single crate. And honestly, sir, that's a you problem. Ye Liu called me in a panic. Li Ming, someone's undercutting your shark meat. Lower your price. I told her the truth and watched her face reset in real time. Wait, you posted both of them. Then she laughed. I thought some big boss killed another shark. Turns out you wrote, directed, and starred in the whole thing. Correct. 2 roles, 1 actor, standing ovation from an audience of the starving. The shards poured in twice as fast. And I want you to understand what I was actually buying with them, because it wasn't just crossbows. It was the doomsday clock. Nobody in that group chat knew the ocean was eating a square meter of everybody's island every single week. Not one of them mentioned it. They were so busy screaming about water and shark meat that they'd missed the one fact that decides who lives. So I did what any reasonable villain-adjacent tycoon would do. I opened an arbitrage window. I listed shark meat for keystones. 200 grams of meat for 1 keystone. To a starving guy, that's a steal. Free meat for a dumb little rock he doesn't understand. To me, that's a square meter of land I don't drown on. I set it to auto-accept. And they lined up. 1 keystone for 200 grams of meat? That's a robbery, in a good way. If I had keystones, I'd trade them all for food. They were selling me their future to buy an afternoon. I bought all of it. That's the whole engine, by the way. I don't win these fights because I'm stronger. I win because I can read the label and they can't. Every trade is me quietly buying the thing that matters from someone who doesn't know it matters. It never once felt like cheating. It felt like the only guy in the casino who can see the cards. While I was busy being the market, the fisherman finished his secret project. And it was genuinely impressive, I'll give him that. Zhang Bo had been starving himself and dumping meat cheap for one reason. He was building a boat. 60 units of wood, 30 metal shards, a small wooden boat. And when he placed it, his tablet asked him a question mine never had. Transfer the island monument onto the boat? Warning, you can't transfer again for 1 year. For a fisherman, the sea isn't the danger. The sea is home. So he said yes. His tablet vanished off the island and reappeared in the boat's cabin. Zhang Bo grabbed his ratty net and his cheap axe and pushed off, howling at the sky. From this day on, I rule the seas. And I hate to admit it, but that was a real move. He gave up the safety of solid ground for range. Now he could row out and grab crates instead of praying they drifted close. Riskier. Bigger rewards. Ruler of the seas. Good for you, buddy. Get eaten carefully. Because I'd just seen a shark demolish my foundation, and Zhang Bo was out there with 5 long spears and a rowboat. The sea does not care about your battle cry. Speaking of getting eaten, the system kept upgrading my violence. Next crate, a repeating crossbow blueprint, grade A. It needed animal sinew, which nobody has out here. The same crate coughed up a beef tendon. The slot machine handing me the exact missing part again. I built it, aimed at my cabin wall, and knock, 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 the bolts buried themselves in the wood like nails. I nearly snapped an arrowhead trying to yank one out. Office me couldn't have pulled that bolt free with both hands. Apple me did it one-armed. I now had range and rate of fire. Anything bigger than me was about to have a much worse day. Ye Liu, meanwhile, hit the jackpot. She called me glowing, dumped a whole crate on screen, 4 keystones, a tent, ranked oranges, linen, lettuce seeds. Are you a European emperor now? I asked, which is our slang for a lucky roll. She tried to split the ranked oranges with me. I refused. I've had higher ranked fruit. Keep your B-grade snacks. She offered me the tent instead. I live in a wooden cabin. What do I need a tent for? And then, because I'm a bad person, I stepped aside and patted my cabin wall so she could see it in frame. Her eyes went huge. You're so far ahead of me. I shrugged with the full arrogance of a man in a 4-square-meter house. It's a bit small, honestly. Peak Versailles. She took the linen and seeds and told me she wasn't being polite anymore. Good. Neither was I. Then I built a rocking chair. A grade B rocking chair because at this point I had spare metal and a spine that missed furniture. I lay down in it, rocked gently, and fell asleep in the middle of a survival apocalypse. Ye Liu noticed on our next call. Everyone else is fighting to survive and you're on vacation. I told her I was surviving too. Very hard. From a rocking chair. The sky disagreed with my vacation. Rain woke me up. 1 drop on the face, then dark clouds, then a crack of lightning like a starter pistol, then the sky just opened. And the group chat split down the middle in a way that told me exactly how this world's weather worked. It's flooding here. It's not raining at all where I am. Why isn't it raining here? Finally, 3 days with no water, I'm saved. Even if I die, let me drink my fill first. The rain was local. Some people were drinking their first water in days. Others, farther out, hadn't seen a drop and were watching everyone else celebrate. And the ones drinking straight rainwater off a dirty tablet were praying they didn't catch a fever, because out here a fever isn't an inconvenience. It's a death sentence with a countdown. I threw on a leaf raincoat and a bark hat, hauled in my crates, built a fireplace into the cabin wall and fed it wood. The room climbed to a warm 26 degrees while the storm hammered the sea. Ye Liu had her tent. She was okay. And I sat there dry and warm and did the math on everyone who wasn't. Next morning, the rain stopped. The group chat had turned into a hospice. I think I have a fever. Can anyone help? I feel so weak. Am I going to die? So thirsty, so hungry, so cold. Nobody answered them, because nobody could. A single rainstorm had just quietly started killing off the people who had no roof, no fire, no working body. I'm not going to make a joke here. This world doesn't do warnings. It just does math, in the dark, on an empty stomach. And the only name I cared about in that whole drowning channel was one that never answered. I'd tried again the night before. Hua Qing, if you see this, message me privately. And for once, someone did. Hello, I'm Hua Qing. Who are you? My heart jumped. I called instantly. Are you really Hua Qing? Yes. I'm dying of thirst. Give me water. I'll be your underling. Something felt off. The Hua Qing I'm looking for is a woman. Just give me a sip and I'll become a woman for you. I hung up so fast I nearly cracked the tablet. Blocked. Get out, you thirsty little gremlin. Somewhere out there, a random dude was ready to fully transition for 50 milliliters of water, and honestly, in this economy, respect the hustle. But no. The real Hua Qing was still out there, silent. And every time I typed her name into that channel, it got buried under 1,000 people trading their bodies for a drink. I told myself she was smart. I told myself she was safe. I didn't fully believe either one, but you keep the lie that lets you build. So I built. I cracked open a fresh crate and found 2 eggs, grade A. My brain went straight to breakfast until the label stopped me. Very nutritious, you can eat them, but if you incubate them, you might be pleasantly surprised. Nobody eats the egg after a tooltip like that. I nested them in leaves by the fireplace because a pleasant surprise that hatches is worth 100 boiled eggs. I had no idea what was inside. That's the fun of the slot machine. Sometimes it's a fishing net. Sometimes it's whatever claws its way out of an A-grade egg next to your bed. I upgraded my water from good to absurd, too. My purifier turned seawater into A-grade drinking water, and when I finally tasted it, it made the mineral water from the crates taste like puddle runoff. So when some poor soul in the trading hall listed 2 chili pepper seeds for 50 milliliters of purified water, the whole channel mocked him for dreaming. I quietly paid it. Not with my good water, obviously, with the cheap crate water I didn't want. 50 mils of tap for 2 chili seeds. I love spicy food, and the channel had no idea a big boss just cleared their impossible listing without blinking. By day 3, I had a fireplace. A farm starting in wooden basins, apple trees, lettuce, chili seeds in the dirt, 2 mystery eggs by the fire, a crossbow, a robot fisherman, and a business empire I ran under at least 2 fake names. The NPCs were dying of a rainstorm. I was worried about seasoning. And then I stepped outside to collect 8 fish from the overnight haul, looked out at the flat morning sea, and saw it. A black dot on the horizon. Not a crate, wrong shape, too big, too solid. It wasn't drifting, it was coming. My island had been the only thing in the water for days, and now something out there had a direction. The direction was me. If only I had a telescope, I muttered. Then, because I'm not an idiot, I remembered the one tool that never lets me down. Right, I haven't signed in yet. Whatever was coming, I wanted to see it first. Sign in first, though. And the system, in its infinite wisdom, did not give me a telescope. Sign in successful. Reward. Double status. 10% chance of double rewards, lasting 1 day. A buff. Not a telescope. A buff. And when I asked, the system confirmed the cruel part. 10%. So 1 sign-in in 10. I get a day where everything I collect doubles. And today was the day. So I have to gamble the good crates for the days this is active, I muttered. Yeah, buddy, that's exactly how it works. But today? Today, everything I touched came out twice. Double the happiness. I was going to abuse the absolute life out of it. First, I checked the farm, because the farm was insane. My apple seeds, planted yesterday, had already sprouted 2 green saplings. Overnight. Plants here grow at video game speed, which meant food was about to stop being a problem forever. While the group chat begged for a sip of water, I was watering my trees with A-grade purified water. If they could have seen me, they'd have rioted. Then I ate. Really ate. I finally grilled the grade A eagle pomfret from day 1. My cooking had leveled up so hard, the fish came out crispy outside, tender inside, 0 char. Character growth. It was 4 pounds, too much for me. So I sent half to Ye Liu, no trade attached. She refused. Too valuable. So I did something I'd never done in the year I worked under her. Stop talking. I'm giving you food. Eat it. That's an order. Silence on her end. She'd never heard me give an order before. I'm the guy who reported numbers to her. And she told me later that hearing it didn't annoy her at all. It warmed her up. She said thank you. She ate. She swore that fish was better than any 5-star meal she'd had at any business dinner in her old life. Then she licked her fingers, muttered, I owe him again. I'll never pay this off. Grabbed her net and got back to work. That's the thing about Ye Liu. Every kindness lands on her like a debt she's determined to repay. It's going to matter later. Me? I ate 1,500 grams of A-grade fish and nearly caught fire. Seriously. Heat roared through my body like I'd chugged a nuclear reactor. I ripped my shirt off because nobody was around and I was cooking from the inside. One apple was a snack. This was 7 apples of raw upgrade at once. My eyesight sharpened. My strength jumped again. I could see farther than any starving NPC out there, which is exactly why I spotted the thing they couldn't. The black dot. It had a shape now. A boat. And the second I saw it, my joy curdled into something cold. A boat means a person, and I'd been alone long enough to ache for one. But this world has no laws, no police, no morals holding anybody's worst self in check. A person out here isn't automatically company. Sometimes a person is just a predator with a face. I set my crossbow down beside me and watched. It was Zhang Bo, my fisherman, ruler of the seas, and he hadn't spotted me because he hadn't eaten a stack of magic fish and his eyes were normal human range. His boat drifted sideways away from my island. My chest unclenched a notch. But only a notch, because a guy rowing in circles finds everything eventually, and my island wasn't a sad little pillar anymore. It was a 2-story compound with chicken coops and farm beds. To a hungry sailor, my island looks like Christmas. I needed an alarm. I really need a dog, I muttered, and started sketching noisemaker traps. Remember that. The dog thing comes back. Then I watched Zhang Bo nearly die. I want you to appreciate the timing of what happened next. He rode up on a crate, spotted the shark shadow underneath it, and did the exact thing I did. Speared it. Except he was standing on a wooden boat, not solid ground. The shark, in agony, whipped around and bit clean through the side of his hull. Snap! His tablet went red. Hull damaged. Repair immediately. Sinking in 10 minutes. And he checked his cargo, and he didn't have enough. 2 metal shards. Not enough wood for planks. 10 minutes to drowning. So he panic-posted a trade. 2 keystones for 2 planks and 3 metal shards. Urgent. 10-minute listing. A drowning man throwing his land at anyone who'd catch it. And guess who was scrolling the trading hall with a double reward buff active? I saw the listing. I didn't know it was Zhang Bo. Didn't matter. I dropped 2 planks and 3 shards, closed the deal. The system sang. Double reward triggered. Received. Keystone times 4. I turned his emergency into free real estate, doubled. Out at sea, Zhang Bo whooped, slammed the materials into his hull. The planks knitted back together good as new. He lived. Because of me. He has no idea I'm the guy who saved his life for a 100% markup. Keep that in your back pocket, because we are absolutely coming back to Zhang Bo. The rest of that double buff day, I printed money. Ye Liu called with a lucky crate, and I'd figured out the exploit. Trade everything to me first. She didn't understand, but she trusted me, so she did. Her loot hit my inventory, the system doubled it. I traded her fair half straight back. She got her share. I got a mystery second copy of everything for free. I couldn't explain the buff, so I just took the wins and promised myself I'd make it up to her. A grade A chicken coop blueprint came through that way. I built 2 of them. Cute little 2-story coops with fenced yards, moved my mystery eggs inside, and settled in to wait for whatever hatched. Grade A coop, 100% hatch rate, 80% faster growth. I was about to be a poultry magnate. My island was 37 square meters now. Cabin in the middle, giant planting basins out front, stone flower beds on each side, chicken coops out back. 2 weeks ago, I got outthrown by a box. Now I had zoning. And then the story cut away from me and showed me exactly what kind of man was sailing around out there. Zhang Bo found another island. A woman on it, covered in soot, casting her net, trying to survive same as everybody. He beached his boat quiet on the far side, crept up with his axe, and pressed the blade to her throat. Don't move. She froze, terrified, begged for her life, said she'd do anything. And Zhang Bo shook her down for everything she had. He grabbed her 1 bottle of mineral water, cracked it, and chugged the entire thing in one go while she watched, then burped in her face. You left some for me, she started. He'd already finished it. Then he told her she was his now. Forget the island, come on the boat. She had a choice to make. She made the survivor's choice. She smiled, called him Brother Zhang, told him she'd rely on him from now on, and picked a name for her new life. Shu Li, White Lotus. If you know the genre, you know exactly what that name signals. The sweet, wounded face that always turns out to be the sharpest knife in the room. File her away, too. Here's the part that told me how the sea really works. Shu Li wanted to keep her island monument, the one thing that made her a player instead of prey. But two monuments can't ride one boat, so Zhang Bo solved it his way. He took the back of his axe and smashed her tablet to pieces. It cracked like glass. Destroyed one island monument. Received keystone times 12. 12 keystones for her entire foundation, and the second it shattered, her island started to sink beneath their feet. He yanked her onto the boat, cut the rope, and rowed off while she watched her whole world slide under the water. "Things'll get better from here," he told her. "That's who's out there. A man who'll bite through your throat for your water bottle and smash your future for a handful of rocks. And he's sailing in slow, hungry circles. My island is the biggest, richest, most tempting target in the whole dark ocean. I did not have a dog yet. I went back to building because worrying doesn't stack keystones. My apple trees hit 30 centimeters. I transplanted one into a flower bed to give them room. I got an S-grade soil from a crate, the first S-grade anything I'd ever pulled that wasn't from a sign-in, and immediately hit the rich guy problem of having dirt too good for any seed I owned. I made a wok set and cooked actual fish soup, milky and rich, and drank it happily. Then hit the one wall this whole magic island couldn't solve. Salt. No seasoning of any kind. I'm surrounded by an entire ocean of salt water, and I have no idea how to get the salt out of it. I posted a trade, fish for salt. The channel roasted me for it. The big boss chased flavor already? We're starving, and he wants seasoning? Nobody had salt to sell. The wilderness survival types who could make it barely had enough for themselves. I canceled the listing and drank my rich, delicious, completely unsalted fish soup like a peasant king. Somewhere in my future there is a war for salt. I want it on record that it started here. The group chat, meanwhile, had gotten quieter, and one of them finally said the quiet part. The people who spent day one chatting instead of building had wasted the only time that mattered, and the rainstorm had thinned out everyone with a weak body and no roof. The channel wasn't calmer because things were better. It was calmer because there were fewer people left to type. Nobody in there ever mentioned ranked food improving your body. Not once. Which told me the smart survivors had figured out the same thing I had, and were keeping their mouths shut. Getting rich, quietly. That's the real meta out here. The loud ones were already dead. The quiet ones were the competition. And the quietest, hungriest, most dangerous one of all was somewhere out on the water with a boat, an axe, a white lotus, and a growing taste for taking what other people built. My eggs were about to hatch. My alarm system did not exist. And ask me again what came crawling out of those grade A eggs, because it was not a chicken. But before the eggs, I need to tell you about the water. Because this is the day I stopped being just a tycoon and started being somebody's person. Ye Liu left me a quiet message. "Could you lend me some purified water first?" Which was strange. She'd pulled bottles before. Gone already? She apologized, said she was going through special circumstances and drinking more than usual, and promised to pay it all back. And I read that twice, and something clicked, because I'm not an idiot and I've dated before. Those days. The ones where a woman's body turns against her and nobody out here has a heating pad or a painkiller or a shred of comfort. So I didn't make it weird. I sent her a photo of my A-grade water purifier, told her the drinking supply was more than covered, and said, "Wait a minute." Then I boiled 2 bottles of purified water, let them cool just enough, and traded them over warm. Warm. Not because the recipe called for it, because she was hurting and cold on a rock in the ocean, and warm water is the only kindness I could physically mail her. She figured out why they were warm, and on her end, she drank one. The sore ache in her stomach actually eased, because A-grade water doesn't just hydrate, it heals a little. She sat there holding a warm bottle from the one person in this whole drowning world who'd noticed without being told. She thought, "How do I ever repay this?" And she fell asleep smiling. I told her to rest. I meant it. Some things you don't put a price on. I run a business where I put a price on everything. Then a completely different message dragged me back to the grind. It broke my heart a little too. Top of the trading hall, a medium sailboat blueprint, grade C, for sale. The seller wanted only one thing. Fever reducer. Anything that breaks a fever. Urgent. And a medium sailboat is my ticket. That's the boat that crosses the ocean. That's how I find Hua Qing. People were throwing keystones and cola and mountains of supplies at this guy, and he was refusing all of it, because none of it was medicine. So I messaged him. "Will ice cubes work?" "No, my child is too young." I stopped. A child? Even kids got dragged into this hell? Yeah, he's 1.5. And on his island, a burly man was cradling a screaming baby with a fever, absolutely losing his mind. Turned out he was a mercenary before all this. Killing, surviving in the worst places on Earth, no problem. And he was completely, totally helpless in front of one sick baby. The rain had gotten to the kid somehow, and there is no children's medicine in the ocean. He was watching his son burn up with nothing to do but roar at a stone tablet. I didn't have a fever reducer, but I had a theory. I've got something I can try. Not sure it'll work. A-grade purified water improves your body. If it strengthens an adult, maybe it gives a baby the boost to fight the fever himself. I sent 20 milliliters, no charge yet. Test it first. If it works, we'll deal. He fed it to the kid. 3 minutes later, it really works. The baby's eyes cleared, still warm, but awake, alert, babbling at his dad. A man who'd stared down war zones had just watched clean water pull his son back. I felt that one in my chest. He sent me the sailboat blueprint. No haggling, total trust. And because it was my double buff day, the system handed me 2 copies. He asked to be friends, said he might need to buy more water someday. His name was Xiao Yi, a mercenary who kept a baby alive in the apocalypse and still built a sailboat blueprint. That's a dangerous man with a good heart, and those are exactly the allies you want. I sold him 200 milliliters for cheap and called the first batch a gift. You take care of the people who take care of their kids. Meanwhile, Zhang Bo, out on his boat, had seen the same blueprint go up and offered 16 keystones for it and gotten refused because it was already mine. He threw a full tantrum at the sea about it. I offered 16 keystones. Are you sick? Yeah, buddy, I'm sick. I'm the sickness. Enjoy rowing. Then night came. I set noise traps, slept with a crossbow on the bed and a spear at arm's reach, and did not sleep well, because a predator with a boat was somewhere out there, and I still didn't have an alarm, which the system, with perfect comic timing, fixed the next morning. Sign-in successful. You've won a Chinese rural dog. A yellow mutt appeared on my sand, tail going like a helicopter, and the label made me laugh out loud. Chinese rural dog, S level. Don't underestimate this mongrel. Special Forces soldiers might not be its match. Understands simple commands. Your most loyal guardian. The system can print a living guard dog with the combat rating of a commando out of thin air. I asked for a dog 3 days ago as a joke. The slot machine delivered a war crime with a wagging tail. Your name's Hey Bao, I told him. He wagged harder. Good boy. He immediately ran to the beach and fetched the overnight fish in his mouth, which prompted the most important question of the morning. How am I supposed to eat this after you bit it? Did you get your rabies shot? And the system actually chimed in, dead serious. Everything the system provides is entirely beneficial to the host. Relax, I told it. Back home, our old yellow dog caught rabbits and we ate them fine. Hey Bao fetched all 12 fish in under a minute. I promised him grilled fish and the good bones. We were a team now. Me, a robot fisherman, and a Special Forces mutt. I want this on record, immediately gave him the same lecture I gave myself. You do not go to the bathroom anywhere on this island. You use the toilet. Understand? He barked. I have no idea if that landed. We'll find out. While I was building an army of one dog, the trading hall turned into a comedy. My shark meat was about to spoil, so I dumped all of it dirt cheap. $1/4 kilo for a handful of wood or metal. And the NPCs, instead of buying, decided to organize. We must unite and boycott the big boss dumping his stock. Nobody buy it. Let it rot in his hands. An actual resistance movement against discount meat. And it held for a heroic 4 seconds before one guy went, "Screw the alliance. I got 1 piece of bread 5 days ago. Only an idiot won't buy this." And the whole boycott dissolved into a stampede. My spoiling meat sold out in 5 minutes while they were still typing manifestos. Solidarity is beautiful right up until somebody's actually hungry. And out of that chaos, an NPC accidentally invented capitalism's next level. Somebody discovered you could rent tools through the trading hall. List your axe for 30 minutes for 1 metal shard. It auto-returns when time's up. Genius. I called Ye Liu immediately and we both started renting out our spare axes and nets. Passive income in the apocalypse off a stone tablet. The floor was still sinking under everybody's feet, and we'd invented the rental economy. Somewhere an NPC was drowning, and I was collecting a security deposit. By the end of it, I had 400 metal shards, 400 planks worth of wood, everything a medium sailboat needs, twice over thanks to the buff. So I built 2 sailboats. 2. My ticket across the ocean, plus a spare. I didn't launch them, too dark. I lay down with my crossbow and my dog on the floor and finally, for the first time since the boat appeared, felt safe. Hay bows an S-class guard. Nothing sneaks up on us now. Something was sneaking up on us right then. A small boat crept toward my island under a bright moon, oars cutting the water, slow and careful. Zhang Bo had circled the whole ocean and washed right back up on my shore, except this time he'd scouted it in daylight. He'd seen the size of my island, the buildings, the garden, and he'd made a plan. Don't rush it. Come back at midnight. Su Li plays lost and helpless out front, lures me into the open, and Zhang Bo ambushes me from behind with an axe. Take the whole island. He'd even promised himself he'd take his time with Su Li in my cabin after. A real charmer, all the way to the end. In my cabin, I was deep in a dream where a woman, maybe Ye Liu, maybe Hua Qing, the dream wouldn't commit, threw herself into my arms and kissed me breathless. Then the dream got wet, and warm, and smelled like dog. I opened my eyes. Hay Bao's face was 2 inches from mine, licking me awake. "What are you doing, you stupid dog?" I shoved him off and wiped my face in horror. And then he did the thing S-class guards do. He didn't bark. He just looked at the door and growled, low, once. Someone was here. I grabbed the crossbow. And I want you to remember something, because the man rowing up to murder me in my sleep did not know 3 things. He didn't know I could see farther than any human alive. He didn't know I'd eaten enough magic fish to throw a grown man 10 meters. And he really didn't know about the dog. Ask me again in a minute how the ambush went, because it did not go the way Zhang Bo planned. So here's how the ambush went. I slipped out the door, crossbow up, and used my own supply crates for cover. 2 figures at the bow of the boat. So it wasn't 1 predator. It was 2. 2 fists can't beat 4 hands, they say. Good thing I'd signed in for a 4th mouthful of teeth that morning. I pointed. Hay Bao dropped flat and low-crawled to the far side, using the crates and flower beds for cover, working a flank like he'd done it 100 times. "You little scoundrel," I whispered. My dog had better tactics than my ambushers. Su Li came ashore first, tugging at her clothes, doing the worst performance I've ever witnessed. "Brother, I got lost rowing. Can I stay the night?" Tug. Tug. I nearly had a stroke watching it. "Stop pulling," I told her. "Keep going and you might as well take it off." "If you want, I can," she purred, stepping closer. And behind the house, in the dark, Zhang Bo was creeping up on my back with an axe in one hand and a spear in the other, thinking his lotus was doing beautiful work. I heard him the whole time. I never turned around. He swung the axe. I didn't move. Both of them had the same thought at the same instant. It's done. We got him. Then a yellow shadow came out of the dark, and Zhang Bo's wrist stopped existing. Snap. Hay Bao clamped down and did not let go. Zhang Bo screamed and stabbed at him with his other hand. The spear buried itself in the dirt where the dog wasn't, because an S-class guard dog does not stand where you stab. Then, Hay Bao pivoted and took the other wrist. Both hands. Gone. The man who'd smashed a woman's whole world for 12 keystones was on his knees, weaponless, screaming into the moonlight. The axe he'd raised over my skull was lying in the sand next to his own fingers. "Hey, Bao, come back!" The dog let go and trotted to me. "Good boy. Extra bones tonight." Zhu Li was frozen, staring at the dog, shaking. Turns out she'd been bitten as a kid, terrified of dogs her whole life. The universe had just sent her a mongrel that dismantles grown men. I looked at her and gave her one chance to talk. She spilled everything, fast, no loyalty to the man bleeding beside her, because she'd never had any. And then, last card. "Little brother, don't kill me. I'll do anything for you." And here's the cold part, and I'm not going to dress it up. She came to my island in the middle of the night to help a man cave my head in with an axe. She'd have smiled over my body. Out here, there's no court, no jail, no second island you send people to. There's only the choice they already made when they picked up the knife. "Thank you," I said, "but no. Your fate was sealed the second you decided to ambush me." The crossbow went off. She dropped. That's the world now. It doesn't do warnings, and neither did I. Zhang Bo, watching his lotus fall, switched to the only move he had left. Value. Big brother, don't kill me. Make me your subordinate. Beat me and my island monument becomes yours. All my resources come with it. And he explained the sub-island system, fast, desperate, selling me on how 2 players collect faster than 1, how his help could make my island #1 in the whole world. He left out the part where destroying a monument dumps all the owner's resources into your lap. He wanted me to think I needed him alive, and I watched his face while he pitched me. And right there, mid-grovel, this little smile crept onto his lips. Because in his head, he'd already skipped ahead. Use my strength, grow fat off my island. The second he didn't need me, smash and run. He wasn't begging for his life. He was planning my funeral with 2 stumps for hands. Whoosh! He never understood why I killed him without warning. Right up to the dark, he was still calculating. I lowered the crossbow. Even when I'm hiring, I told the body, I don't need someone like you. Then I picked them both up, 1 in each hand, and threw them into the sea. And I'll be honest, I surprised myself. Didn't know my arm was that good, I muttered, watching them splash down almost 10 meters out. Office me couldn't throw a fishing net past his own feet. Magic fish me just tossed 2 grown adults like grocery bags. If it drew marine life, fine. I had a crossbow, a dog, and a bad attitude. The sea could send whatever it wanted. Then I walked down to the water and stepped onto Zhang Bo's little wooden boat. I stood there in the moonlight. It hit me what I actually had. I had a boat, 2 of my own, plus his. I had a dog that eats commandos. I had a crossbow, a farm, a water plant, and a body that throws men across the ocean. 6 days ago, a box outthrew me. Tonight, 2 people came to kill me in my sleep, and I'm the only one still breathing. The ruler of the seas is dead. And I think I understand now why he wanted a boat so badly. Because a boat isn't just survival. A boat is the thing that lets you go find the one person you crossed a world for. Hua Qing is out there. Ye Liu can't stay on that tiny island forever, and I finally have a way to reach them. Time to stop waiting for the ocean to bring people to me. Time to go get mine. But ask me again in a minute, because the first thing I found when I searched that dead man's boat changed my whole plan. What I found on the dead man's boat was his whole life. His island monument, sitting in the middle of the deck, ownerless now. The tablet gave me a choice. Owner Zhang Bo has lost vital signs. Destroy it, or take it as an accessory. Either way, you get all his resources. I registered it as a sub-island tablet, and everything he'd ever scraped together poured into my inventory. And there they were, 16 keystones. The exact 16 he'd screamed at the sea about. The ones he'd wanted to trade for a sailboat blueprint he could never afford. He died for a boat. I inherited his keystones and used every one of them to make my island bigger. Rest in pieces, ruler of the seas. I went back to bed. It was 1:30 in the morning and I'd just fought a war. And I looked at He Bao and laid down one new rule. No more licking. You can pull my clothes, pull my hand, but no tongue. We're not doing that. He woofed. He absolutely did it again the very next morning. I woke up to a wet face and a scream that probably carried 3 islands over. Some battles you don't win. Then I launched the sailboats. They were massive, 10 times the size of Zhang Bo's rowboat. I sailed one in a lazy circle and came home. Because a boat with no map and no destination is just a very large way to get lost. I had the ticket now. I still didn't have the address. I did have a problem, though. My cabin was a shoebox. The next sign-in fixed it in the most dramatic way possible. Building upgrade card. Upgrades any building to the next rank, randomly. I slapped it on the cabin. Congratulations, your wooden cabin is now a studio apartment. 36 square meters, cement walls, a living room, a kitchen, an actual bathroom. Except the tablet immediately added a catch. Your island is too small to place this. Expand within 24 hours or the upgrade fails. My island was 63 square meters and it still wasn't enough. So I dumped my whole keystone hoard into the ground, ballooned the island to 174 square meters. My sad wooden box transformed into a real house with painted cement walls. 2 weeks ago, I lost a fight to a supply crate. Now I had a kitchen. Empty kitchen, though. And that's the thing about this whole climb. Every upgrade just reveals the next 10 things you don't own. Bigger house, more empty rooms. It never ends. Which is exactly why I kept running the arbitrage machine. The machine had one last window before it slammed shut. The keystone window. In 2 days, the ocean starts eating everyone's island, 1 square meter a week. And the NPCs still didn't know. So I dumped water and fish into the trading hall, buying keystones as fast as they'd sell. And a few of them were starting to smell it. "Keep a couple of keystones, they feel important," one guy warned. The others shouted him down. "Don't believe him, trade them all for food." So I sat there with my guidebook open, quietly buying up everybody's land while they high-fived each other for the great deal. "Go ahead, trade them all," I muttered. "You'll be crying in 2 days." And they would be. Then 2 of my problems solved themselves through the people I'd been good to. I want you to notice the pattern because it's the whole point. First, the salt, my white whale. Ye Liu pulled a sea salt extractor from a crate, grade B, the exact machine I'd been begging the ocean for, and instead of keeping it, she said, "I don't have room or the materials. You build it. Share some with me." So I built it. It pulled refined salt straight out of the leftover sludge from my water purifier, which, if you think about it, is genius. The purifier concentrates everything the water leaves behind. The Salt War. I declared 3 days ago ended not with a battle, but with my ex-boss handing me the win because I'd once sent her warm water on a bad day. Kindness is just infrastructure with a longer payment plan. Second, the plumbing, which the system decided should be humbling. I built a water element system, basically home plumbing, 2 3-ton water tanks. And then the tablet informed me the tanks don't fill themselves. I had to carry 3 tons of seawater, by bucket. So I made a 10-kilo wooden bucket and became a full-time water porter. 20 buckets, easy. "I've got great stamina," I said, smug. 200 buckets later, my arms were on fire, and I was questioning every choice that led me here. But it worked. Tap water hissed out of the wall. I took my first shower in 5 days. I nearly cried harder than I did over the fishing net. I'd been marinating in my own sweat in the ocean since the flashbang. That shower was a religious experience. The tap water tasted like a swimming pool, by the way. I spat it out. But you can boil it clean, which meant I just discovered a whole new product. Boiled water. In a world where water is worth more than food, I owned a wall that made it. My mansion was becoming a factory again. Meanwhile, the group chat had evolved past begging into full political theater. A guy named Tianhang Yi, the same clever one who taught everybody the ring toss trick on day 1, announced he was forming an alliance. Emperor's arrival. He listed his stats to recruit. 30 square meter island, a tent, a bow, a water purifier. And the NPCs lost their minds, because to them 30 squares was a palace. Then it got petty. That big boss got 90 keystones, way bigger than Guo Tian's. Bet that's an organization, not one guy. No, Guo Tian did it alone. And they started a full keyboard war over which big boss was more impressive, me or him. Throwing insults over a tent and a bow and arrow. I watched them argue about me, then looked around at my 2 water purifiers, my repeating crossbow, my studio apartment. I muttered, dead serious, "I don't have a bow. I don't have a tent. I'm so useless." Then I lay down and took a nap while they fought about my resume. But I clocked it. Guo Tian was gathering followers, and out here, a boss with followers isn't a chat personality. It's an army forming somewhere over the horizon. First, Zhang Bo came alone with an axe. The next threat was going to come with a flag. I filed him away with the rest. And then, over by the coops, I heard it. Chirp, chirp, chirp. The eggs had hatched. 2 chicks, bright yellow, 1 male, 1 female, huddling together and screaming at me because they were starving. A breeding pair. The start of a whole flock, in a world where a boiled egg is a luxury, and I had absolutely nothing to feed them. My wheat wasn't for them. So I did the only thing I know how to do. System, sign in. Please, give me chicken feed. And the slot machine, which cannot read a room to save its life, went, sign in successful, 10 S-grade corn seeds. Not feed, premium seeds. I'm holding 2 starving chicks, and the system hands me a farm I can't harvest in time. Riveting. I begged the group chat for chick food. That went about how you'd expect. People are starving and you're feeding chickens? And then one guy launched, completely unprompted, into a passionate speech about eating live earthworms for the protein. You bite in, and your mouth fills with the fresh scent of earth, until someone begged him to stop before they threw up their last bread. Standard channel behavior. I asked Ye Liu if she had food. "You have chicks?" she blurted, then went bright red at how that sounded and hung up on herself. I was too busy panicking about poultry to even catch it. She noticed. I didn't. Keep score, because that gap between what she feels and what I notice is going to run for a while. 2 chicks, 10 seeds, no feed, a rival raising an army, and an ocean about to start eating everyone alive. And I still hadn't heard a single word back from the one person I actually built all this for. Ask me again in a minute, because the day the sea finally bit was the day everything on that channel changed at once. First, the chick food, because it led me to the best hire I ever made. Buried in 100 begging messages, one old man DM'd me the actual answer. Keep the chicks warm, crumble bread, dry the fish and mash it in, boil their water so they don't get sick. Real knowledge. So I asked what he wanted for it, and he said, "Nothing. I'm too old. I've hit my limit. You keep it and live." He was giving up. On a 4-square-meter island, an old man leaning on his tablet, ready to let go. So I made him an offer instead. Be my farming consultant, a fish and half a liter of clean water, every day. Because a man who knows animals is worth more to me than any crate, and because nobody who politely refuses food while starving deserves to drown. He took the deal, we added each other. His name came up. Lao Sun, Old Sun. And when I video called him and actually saw his face, I nearly fell over. This wasn't some random farmer. This was an agricultural academician whose techniques had literally fed my entire country. A living legend, ready to quietly die on a rock because he thought he was useless out here. Not on my island. I sent him A-grade water, boiled water, roasted fish, the fishing net and axe I'd taken off Zhang Bo's corpse. You'll be feeding people again soon, I told him. He drank the water and felt years drop off his body and muttered that it defied everything he knew about science. Everything here defies science, Teacher Lin, I said. He agreed. And just like that, I had the greatest farmer alive on my payroll for 1 fish a day. Ye Liu for logistics, Xiao Lei for muscle, Sun Ren for crops. I wasn't a lone survivor anymore. I was building a company, and I ran it on the same fuel as always. I sold boiled water for keystones, dumped 40 listings at a time, played myself as 2 rival bosses again, and hoovered up every last keystone the NPCs would part with. Because I knew what tomorrow was, and they didn't. Yet. Then I woke up. The whole ocean found out at once. The channel was screaming. How did the seawater rise? My island lost 0.3 square meters overnight. It's still spreading inland. I can't swim. The 6-day grace period was over. The sea had taken its first bite. And in one horrible group chat instant, every single person understood what that dumb little rock they'd been trading me for a sip of water actually was. The land under their feet. So that's what keystones do. Which big boss traded me 100 milliliters for my keystone yesterday? Get out here! I curse him to never get the seasoning packet in his instant noodles. That last one genuinely hurt. But it was too late. I'd already yanked all my keystone listings, and 5 desperate souls had still sold me theirs overnight. The window was closed. The arbitrage was done. And the trading hall flipped inside out in real time, from everyone dumping keystones for food to everyone throwing bread, blueprints, and entire double beds at anyone who'd sell them a single keystone back. I sat there with 43 fresh keystones and a fully furnished conscience. I'd told you they'd be crying in 2 days. It was 2 days. They were crying. I don't feel great about it. I also expanded my island to nearly 300 square meters, so I feel great about it. Both things are true out here. And Tianhang Yi, the clever one, used the panic to build his empire. He got up in the channel and calmly explained the whole thing, framing the first 6 days as a beginner period that was now over, difficulty rising, 1 square meter a day from here. Sounded wise, sounded like a leader. And then came the pitch. Join Emperor's arrival, get half-price fishing net rentals, survive together. And the desperate NPCs stampeded to sign up until the fine print dropped. Membership fee, 1 keystone. Then 1 more keystone every 10 days, plus wood, stone, glass, metal on a tithe. The channel revolted. This is blood-sucking. Boycott Emperor's arrival. And Guo Tian, cold as ice, went, nobody's forcing you. If you can't scrape 1 keystone in 10 days, we don't want you anyway. Goodbye. Ruthless. Effective. He wasn't wrong either, which is what made him dangerous. Zhang Bo came at me with an axe. Guo Tian was building a nation with a membership tier. Different weapon, same horizon. He filed himself right next to the crossbow. Meanwhile, the system threw me a full housewarming because I'd survived a week. Fully furnished house gift package. I'd been living in a whitewashed concrete box that looked like a warehouse. Now I got to pick a decor style. I went Mediterranean because I live on an island. I might as well commit to the theme. And my empty shell transformed. Floor-to-ceiling windows onto the sea. A real bed, a mattress, pillows, after a week sleeping on a plank. A sofa, a dining table for 6, a marble kitchen with an actual range hood, and not one thing worked. Because it turns out you can hand a caveman a smart home. The stove had no fuel. The TV had no power. The AC, the water heater, the fancy fan-heated bathroom, all of it sitting there dead because there's no electricity on a magic survival island. I had a modern apartment and the technological base of a shipwreck. So the houses are modern, I muttered, flicking a dead light switch. And everything that goes in them is from the Stone Age. I also realized I'd upgraded to a free double bed one day before getting a better one for free, which is the kind of retail tragedy only I could engineer. I'll sell the spare. Someone out there is dying for a bed. I did solve the water porter humiliation, though. A crate gave me a windmill water pump blueprint, an 8-meter wheel with little buckets on every blade that scoops seawater and pours it down a trough into my tank while I do literally nothing. No more 200 buckets. Except the system, staying on brand, didn't extend the trough far enough to actually reach the tank. So I spent an hour hand-building a leaky wooden gutter and cursing the tablet's entire family. It leaks. It works. That's the island in 4 words. It leaks. It works. I had allies, a mansion, a windmill, a flock starting, a rival building an army, and nearly 300 square meters of land I'd bought with other people's panic. Life was, for the first time, almost comfortable, which is exactly when a message came in that made my blood run cold. Because somebody in that channel, a stranger, messaged me privately and said she was looking for Hua Qing too, and she knew Hua Qing's father's name. Ask me again in a minute who she really was, because she wasn't looking for Hua Qing at all. She was looking for me. So I posted for Hua Qing again, same as every night, into the void. And this time the void answered. Who are you, and why are you looking for Hua Qing? My heart jumped before my brain caught up. She's very important to me, I typed. And the reply came back too fast, too eager. Are you Uncle Liang Wei? It's Jia Hui, Qing Qing's good friend. She knew Hua Qing's father's name, Liang Wei. So my guard dropped a notch. Maybe Hua Qing made a friend after I left. I'm not her father, I'm Li Ming. Long pause. Li Ming? You're not the ex-boyfriend, are you? I guess so. And then the mask slipped just for a second, just enough. So it's that poor kid. That poor kid. And then, sweet as sugar again, I'm looking for Hua Qing too, I'm starving, give me some food. And when I gave her a polite no, she went all in. You want her back, right? Give me a bottle of water, some food, and a Keystone every day. I guarantee I'll get you two back together. Blocked. Instantly. Before she finished the sentence. Because I've been played by better than her. She wasn't even trying. Hey Mei wasn't Hua Qing's friend. She worked at Hua Qing's father's company. That's how she knew the name. She'd watched Hua Qing, the office ice queen, turn down a line of rich, successful men. She never once understood why a woman like that would hold out for some broke college boyfriend. So when she saw somebody hunting for Hua Qing and doing well enough to have the free time to hunt, she smelled a fat fish and cast a line. She wanted to farm me. Water, food, keystones, every day, forever, for the low, low price of a promise she couldn't keep about a woman she barely knew. On her end, blocked and furious, she gritted her teeth. How dare a poor bastard block me? There goes my meal ticket. And on my end, I just muttered, even if you really were Qing Qing's friend, all that proves is she misjudged you. Then I went back to work. But file that name. He Mei. People like her don't drown quietly. They wash back up. Then Sun Ren called. The luckiest man alive handed me a miracle, a soil improvement card. Turns 50 square meters of dead sand into farmland instantly. I'd opened over 40 crates in a week and never seen a card. Old Sun pulled one in 2 days, and he tried to give it to me because his island was 8 square meters and he said it'd be wasted on him. He wasn't sure he'd survive the week. I told him no, told him to keep it. He insisted. Without your fishing net, I'd have caught nothing. It's yours. So I took it, improved 50 square meters in front of my house into real black soil, and made him a promise. From now on, 3 meals a day, on me. You're not dying on my watch. The greatest farmer alive, crying on a 4-meter rock 2 days ago, now had a farm to run. Kindness, infrastructure, longer payment plan. And then the system handed me the biggest score of the whole week. It started with a boring word: update. Week 1 ended at midnight. The tablet announced the tests would get harder from here and dropped one line most people skimmed right past. Expand your island for additional rewards. And the guidebook in my head, the one nobody else has, spelled out exactly what that meant. My island now spawns free resources on any open ground. Bigger island, more spawns. Leave the trees and they grow into forests, and forests spawn animals, and animals mean food, and eventually threats. And, the part that mattered most, the update was splitting the old catch-all metal shard into specific metals: iron, copper, tin. Going forward, a recipe that needs iron won't take copper. But the old universal metal shards? Those still work for everything. So for a few hours before the update fully landed, universal metal shards were about to become the single most valuable resource in the world. And only I knew it. You already know what I did. I dumped boiled water into the trading hall and bought metal shards. Fast, cheap, quiet, 30 milliliters a shard. And they poured in so fast it could only mean one thing. Somebody with a huge stockpile was dumping their metal on me. So I tested it. Listed 100 sets. Gone instantly. 100 more. Gone. 100 more. Gone. No individual survivor has that many shards. This was an organization emptying its vault for my nearly free boiled water. It was Emperor's arrival. It was Guo Tian. And here's the beautiful part. On his end, his lieutenant flagged it. "Boss, someone's buying up metal shards, do we sell?" And Guo Tian, clever Guo Tian, actually got suspicious. He remembered the Keystone buyer who'd known something in advance. He wondered if it was the same guy. So he hedged. "Sell 50% of our stored metal, keep the rest." 50%. He had 475 units of metal in the guild treasury, collected as membership tithes from all his desperate followers. He handed me more than half of it for water I make out of seawater and a stick of firewood. "Let's see how much boiled water you can drink," I said, and kept the listings coming until 3 in the morning. I woke up at 9:30 with a headache and 9,785 metal shards. Nearly 10,000. More universal metal than any human being in the entire ocean. Bought with a resource that costs me a splash of driftwood. Guo Tian funded my empire. He did it while congratulating himself on being cautious. The comedy kept going, too. By afternoon, survivors noticed their crates weren't dropping metal shards anymore, just iron and copper. The channel connected the dots. No wonder a big boss was hoarding metal shards. Guo Tian's face went dark. He ordered his 4 lieutenants to check, and everyone came back the same. No more shards. He'd been robbed in slow motion. He stormed into the public channel to shame the anonymous con man, meaning me, demanding I show myself and share information as if I owed the people I'd out-traded a refund. "Come out, you cowardly rat. You cheated us out of so many shards." So I answered him, anonymously. "Fine. If you think it's me, it's me. Now maybe spend your time catching keystones instead of crying. Keep cursing. See if the metal comes back." He couldn't do anything. He tried to force his own members to pool their remaining shards into the treasury. They all reported, very sincerely, that they'd already spent every last one on my water. His own pyramid drank the vault dry. Guo Tian buried an axe in a tree and called them all ingrates. I put 10,000 metal shards in my warehouse and made breakfast. That's the difference between us, by the way. Guo Tian builds a nation by taxing scared people. I build a fortune by reading the one label they can't see. He came out of week 1 with an army and an empty vault. I came out with 10,000 metal shards and 4 friends who'd die for me. We'll see whose model holds. The system, meanwhile, decided to solve my most undignified problem. Sign in. Paper machine. SSS grade. My first SSS device. I want you to know the exact thought I had when I saw it, because I immediately touched my own backside. I'd been wiping with tree bark for a week. You put wood in one end, pick a paper type. It prints it. I chose toilet paper before it finished the sentence, and the label nearly killed me. SSS grade toilet paper increases cleanliness by 640%. Unparalleled antibacterial effect. Can function as a sterile bandage. My toilet paper is a medical device. One stick of wood makes 10,000 sheets. In a world with no antibiotics, where a small infected cut is a death sentence, I was now printing sterile wound dressings disguised as luxury butt wipe out of firewood forever. I handed 1,000 sheets to each of my friends. Ye Liu nearly fell over. This has antibacterial properties? Yeah, use it on any wound. Xiao Lei had been washing his baby with drinking water because you can't use bark on a toddler, and I just fixed that too. And through all of it, the quiet thing kept running. I cooked. I remembered. Ye Liu still couldn't handle spicy, going by the timeline of her rough week. So I made her fish soup, no chili, 2 lettuce leaves on top, and traded it over without a word about why it was mild. She got it, held the warm bowl, and thought, "He's so good to me. This is the best meal I've had since the world ended." She didn't know why the soup was gentle. She just knew it was. I noticed things about her she never has to say out loud. I still hadn't noticed a single thing she felt about me. We'll get there. 10,000 metal shards, a farm, a medical printer, a rival who'd funded my whole rise while gloating about his caution. And a snake named Hey Mei out there, blocked but not gone, who now knew my ex-girlfriend was an ice queen, turning down millionaires for a poor kid she couldn't forget. That last part I didn't hear, but I would have liked to. Ask me again in a minute, because the next thing that spawned on my island wasn't a resource. It had teeth. Week 2 is when the ocean stopped playing nice. I found out my toilet paper saves lives. It started with Xiao Lei. My mercenary friend had been diving for the far-out crates all week, fighting off sea life with a dagger, no problem. Then week 2 hit, and suddenly there were 2 sharks per crate instead of 1. They didn't run after one wound anymore. He blinded one, took a full bite to the shoulder from the other, and dragged himself ashore with 2 rows of teeth marks in his arm. And the first thing he did was slap my SSS toilet paper on it. It burned, it clotted, it killed the infection. He'd have had to cauterize the wound with fire otherwise. My luxury butt wipe was the only reason a shark bite didn't kill a grown mercenary. He messaged me one line. "More sea life near the crates now." That was the whole warning. The difficulty had gone up, and the sea was done letting anybody wade in for free. So I did the thing I do. I equipped my people. I lent Xiao Lei one of Zhang Bo's boats and told him to stop swimming and start rowing, cast from a distance. Never wrestle a shark in the water with his baby on board. Because his baby, little Bao, was thriving now, sharp and healthy off the A-grade water, pointing at the boat going, "Boat!" And I was not about to let that kid's dad get eaten for a crate. He listened, mostly. He still went back out and fought 2 sharks off a leaking boat just to prove his theory that they now needed 2 wounds to flee. Because mercenaries are like that. But he came home in one piece and handed me the blueprint he'd bled for. Then the system started printing me a farm and a ranch. Sun Ren, my legendary academician, walked me through real agriculture, seed soaking, seedling temperatures, the works. Then I discovered a cheat that made him almost sad. A-grade purified water isn't just body fuel and medicine. Soak a seed in it and it sprouts overnight, no cultivation needed. My magic water skipped his whole science. He got quiet, worried he was useless again. I shut that down fast. Water can't do field work or seed saving or raise livestock. I need you for all of it. Because I did. And because a man that good doesn't get to feel disposable on my watch. Livestock, because the slot machine decided I was a rancher now. Sign-in gave me dairy cows, S-grade, on a day the double buff was active. So I got 4. 4 cows, no barn, no feed, and a fresh flashback to my collapsing hut days. And then, like the world was reading my panic, the very next crate dropped a grade A cowshed blueprint and 10 S-grade pasture seeds that grow to full in 8 hours on regular dirt. Barn and feed, delivered on demand. After years of bad luck, I said, I'm finally getting my fill of good. My chicks were already the size of half-grown hens, growing so fast I joked I must be feeding them hormones. And when I told them to hurry up and lay eggs before I ate them, both chicks paused, tilted their heads at me, and went back to pecking. Too smart. Everything on this island is too smart. I'm going to have a philosophical crisis about eating that chicken later. Then week 2's real test arrived. It came as heat. The sun cranked up across the entire ocean, and the channel turned into a heat stroke ward. My skin's peeling. Can't cast a net, I'll dehydrate. Heat stroke can kill you here. People who'd survived the rain and the Keystone flood were now dropping from the sun, because out here every week the world invents a new way to thin the herd. And I sat in my Mediterranean apartment, behind floor-to-ceiling windows, next to a forest that kept my island weirdly cool. I sold them the cure. Lightly salted, boiled water. Because I'm the only one with a salt machine, and salt is exactly what a sweating, dehydrating body is screaming for. I sent it to my 4 friends for free, the salt keeping them alive. I listed it in the trading hall at premium, 2 keystones or 5 metal shards per 50 milliliters, and the channel stampeded. A disaster for them. A Tuesday for me. I keep telling you, it leaks, it works, and every catastrophe is a storefront. But underneath all the farming and the profiteering, one thing had me genuinely spooked. The big ship. A survivor swore he saw a huge ship on the horizon, screamed himself hoarse trying to flag it, and by the time he found wood for a signal fire, it was gone. The channel called him a hunger hallucination. But I believed him, because I'd already had a rowboat sail up to murder me. Somebody out there had already built a large ship, and a large ship isn't one guy with a dog. A large ship is a crew, organized, armed, sailing with purpose. And my island, the biggest, richest target in the sea, was sitting there defended by exactly 1 man, 1 crossbow, and 1 very good dog. And then it got stranger. Days later, a second big ship was spotted, closer. Then it just vanished. Not sailed off. Gone, in an instant, like the ocean itself reached up and deleted it. Sun Ren and I chewed on that for a long time. What kind of power erases a full-sized ship between one blink and the next? Nothing a survivor could do. Which meant the world itself had rules we hadn't even scratched, rules big enough to swallow a warship whole. And if the world could do that to a ship, it could do it to an island. To mine. That was the night I stopped thinking like a survivor and started thinking like a warlord. One man can't hold an empire this size, not against crews, not against emperors. A rival, which was still recruiting an army out there, not against whatever else the sea was building. I had the land, the food, the water, the medicine, the metal, the boats. What I didn't have was people. My people, here, on my island, standing with me instead of scattered across the dark on their own shrinking rocks. Ye Liu, Zhao Lei, Sun Ren. I could keep them alive by trade forever, or I could bring them home and build something no lone predator could crack. So I made the call that changed everything. I told them to come, all of them, sail to me. And somewhere out in that same dark water was a woman I hadn't seen in over a year, an ice queen who'd turned down a line of millionaires for a poor college boyfriend she couldn't forget. And 2 very familiar snakes were about to row up onto her tiny island. Ask me again in a minute, because the day my people set sail for home was the day Hua Qing finally showed up on that channel. And she was not alone. So my people set sail for home, and while they crossed the dark, my island became something out of a dream, and the one person I never expected answered my call. I'd stopped waiting for land to appear and started making it. I dug a trench across my island with the toolbox, and the world's rules did the rest, evolving it into an actual freshwater river with a current. So drinking water stopped being a resource and became scenery. My forest thickened. My rice came in. My cows chewed pasture that grows to full in 8 hours. Every sign-in stacked another impossible gift on the pile, and my 2-meter death pillar had turned into a green island with a hill in the middle. The NPCs on the channel were still ordering down jackets because winter was coming, the 4th season in 4 brutal weeks. And out here, each season is just a new way the world tries to kill you. And every single night, no matter how good things got, I posted the same message. Hua Qing, if you see this, message me. Into the void. Always into the void. Until the void answered with a man's voice. You're looking for Hua Qing? And he knew things, real things, her whole life. And when his name loaded on my tablet, my stomach dropped. Liang Wei, Chairman An, Hua Qing's father, the man whose company I refused, the kind, powerful father who'd have handed me his entire world. I said no and walked away from his daughter out of some stupid pride. Now here he was, thin and terrified on his own shrinking rock somewhere in the same black ocean, hunting for the same girl, with the same hole in his chest. And instead of hating me, he grabbed onto me like a lifeline. Two men who both loved Hua Qing, both failed her in different ways, both desperate to find her. We became allies in about 4 seconds flat. I sent him water, food, medicine. He gave me everything he knew. And neither of us said the obvious thing out loud, which was that if I'd just swallowed my pride a year ago, none of us would be here. Some apologies you make with actions instead of words. I made mine by promising a broken father I'd bring his daughter home. Then the system handed me the exact key we needed. Sign in, 1-week streak reward. Miniature locator, SS grade. Both parties activate it, and you can see each other's position on the map. A way to find one specific dot in an endless black sea. I passed it to my whole circle. Ye Liu, Zhao Lei, Sun Ren, Liang Wei. Suddenly, we weren't scattered strangers trading water. We were a constellation that could see itself. And the second Liang Wei and I lined up our locators, we had a heading, and my people started converging on my island for real. It was not a calm trip. Zhao Lei sailed for me with his baby and a stalker, an ex-underground boxer with 100 straight knockouts who smelled the barbecue on Jiang's boat and rode after him for days, waiting to board and take everything. Sun Ren crawled toward Ye Liu's island, and then week 3's test hit the water. It wasn't a shark or a heat wave, it was a tornado. A full waterspout, the size of a building, ripping across the sea, tearing the top clean off Zhao Lei's sailboat and nearly drowning his kid. He fought through it. He always does. But that same tornado, miles away, nearly capsized a little wooden boat carrying 3 strangers. It sent them fleeing west, straight toward a tiny island I'd been hunting for since the day the sky flashed white. Hua Qing's island. She was resting in her tent when a lewd voice told her to come out. A monkey-faced predator named Kai Yong, boat tied to her shore, eyes crawling all over her. And she didn't scream. She grabbed her spear. She typed one last message to the channel first, to her parents. Liang Wei, Fang Jie, your daughter may never find you, but you must live on. Then she walked out to face him alone. Liang Wei saw that message and nearly came apart. He video called me, frantic. Qing's in trouble! And for one horrible second, I was as useless as any NPC. No idea where she was, no way to reach her. Then it hit me, the locator. Send her yours, now. He fired a trade for the SS locator at her. She didn't accept, because she didn't understand, because a knife was walking up her beach. The knife had a familiar face behind it. A woman climbed off Kai Yong's boat, and Hua Qing's eyes went wide. He Mei, it really is you. My snake. The one who'd tried to farm me weeks ago pretending to be Hua Qing's best friend. The one I'd blocked on sight. She wasn't a friend. She was a low-level employee at Liang Wei's company who'd always resented the beautiful Ice Queen who turned down millionaires. And now the tornado had dropped that Ice Queen right into her lap. We ran into the company's Ice Queen, she purred. Now you don't get to be so high and mighty, do you? They took her, smashed her island monument, sank her island, dragged her onto their boat as a slave, and turned her into a hostage. Then, He Mei opened a channel to Liang Wei, to me, and started the ransom. Your daughter's in my hands. Show me your sincerity. Water and food, every 10 minutes, or who knows what happens to your Qing. And I want you to watch how I played it, because I didn't get loud. I got cold. I messaged sweet. I begged. I offered to trade her my whole island for Hua Qing's safety, played the devoted, panicking ex, let her think she'd hooked a golden goose she could milk forever. I let her believe she was in control. And on the video call, when I finally saw Hua Qing's face, thin and exhausted, and still the most beautiful thing in any world, I said 8 careful words. I'll find Uncle Liang, and I'll find you the same way. To He Mei, it was a sad ex making promises. To Hua Qing, who's sharper than anyone alive, it was a key. I'd said, find Uncle Liang as a done thing. Same method, the locator her father just tried to send her. She understood instantly. She slumped to the floor after He Mei slapped her, and under cover of looking beaten, she activated the miniature locator and slid it into her shoe. A bright dot bloomed on my map, 3,000 kilometers east. Found you. 3,000 kilometers. At a medium sailboat's crawl, a week. And she didn't have a week. She had however long it took a bored psychopath to get tired of her. I stared at that dot. So far away it might as well have been the moon. And for the first time since the flashbang, I felt genuinely, completely helpless. My empire, my metal, my army of allies, none of it could close 3,000 kilometers of ocean before that boat became her coffin. So I did the only thing that's ever saved me. I looked at the sky, and I said it. System, sign in. Sign in successful. Reward, small multifunctional yacht, triple S class. Universe alloy hull, pure electric. Top speed 600 kilometers per hour. Range 10,000 kilometers. 600. The fastest boat my old world ever built topped out at 511, stripped of everything to do it. The slot machine just handed me something faster, with an AI pilot named Ling Long built into the dash, on the exact night the woman I crossed a world for was 3,000 kilometers away with a knife at her back. 5 hours. That dot was 5 hours away now. I loaded a spare tablet boat for the map. I told Hey Bao to guard the house and let my friends land when they arrived. I pointed 15 meters of blue universe alloy due east and told the AI to floor it. A whale tried to intercept me and got left several hundred meters behind, staring baffled at how a boat could move like that. I was coming, fast. And I already knew that when I got there, I wasn't just pulling Hua Qing out of the water. I was going to make absolutely certain that everyone who ever laid a hand on her understood exactly what kind of man that poor kid had become. Ask me again in a minute how that reunion went, because it started with a shark. It ended with a lesson. I got there at the worst possible second, which is to say exactly the right one. Out at that far dot, the boat had run into something with teeth the size of a boat of its own. A giant shark, bigger than their whole vessel. And Hey Mei did what people like her always do when the bill comes due. She grabbed Hua Qing. She threw her to it, shoved her off the boat, stabbed her hand when she reached back, and rowed away to buy her own life with somebody else's. Hua Qing hit the water, watched the boat pull away, and closed her eyes. Mom! Dad! Li Ming! Goodbye! The shark opened a red mouth an arm's length from her face. Bang! A wave slammed her sideways. She opened her eyes thinking she was hallucinating because there was a 15-meter blue yacht where there should have been ocean, and a voice she hadn't heard in a year screaming her name. Hua Qing! Grab the rope! I threw it. She caught it, and I hauled her out of the water and onto the deck in 5 seconds flat. And behind her, right where her legs had been, the shark's jaws snapped shut on empty air with a crack like a gunshot. Half a second slower and there'd have been nothing left to pull. She stared at me, soaked and shaking. Li Ming, is it really you? No time. The shark rammed us. Ling Long, get us clear! And we blew away across the water so fast, the monster couldn't even keep the yacht in sight. I put her in a hot shower before she caught her death, dried her clothes, and made her breakfast in a kitchen on a boat in the middle of the apocalypse. Scrambled eggs and tomato, pickled cucumber, fish soup. She sat down and looked at it like it wasn't real. Is any of this real? Then she abandoned every shred of the Ice Queen dignity that had turned down a line of millionaires. She inhaled the whole table in about 30 seconds, and she finished with a burp so loud she went red to the ears. I loved her a little more for that burp than for anything in 4 years of college. First, salt and oil she'd tasted in half a month. I could have watched her eat forever, but I didn't rescue her to run. I turned the yacht around. Because Hey Mei and Kai Yong were still out there, still afloat, and I'd just watched a woman throw the girl I loved to a shark to save her own skin. That debt gets paid today. So I sailed back. I found them exactly where you'd hope, turning on each other. The shark, on fire from ramming my universe alloy hull, had chased them the whole way, and the two of them were wrestling on the deck, each trying to make the other the bait. They saw the yacht and instantly switched to sweet. Save us! I'll do anything! He may, striking a pose. So I asked one simple question. I saw someone push Hua Qing into the sea. Who was it? Step forward. She pointed at Kai Yong so fast her arm blurred. It was him! I'm just a weak woman! Hua Qing stepped up beside me. You pushed me in. It was you! And I looked at Hey Mei and said flat, Are you going to jump, or should I push you? Karma didn't even wait for me. Kai Yong shoved her overboard. She dragged him halfway down with her. Then he pried her hands off and stabbed at her in the water, keeping her from climbing back. The exact thing she'd done to Hua Qing 20 minutes earlier. It really is a wheel. What you do comes back around wearing the same face. Then Kai Yong bowed and scraped to me. Brother, I dealt with the one who hurt Hua Qing for you. Take me as your loyal dog. I told him I already had a dog at home, and a much better one. He could jump in himself. He didn't. He waited until I hopped down onto his little boat, then rammed a spear straight at my chest, already dreaming about the yacht and the girl being his. I caught the spear tip between 2 fingers. He shoved with everything he had. It didn't move an inch. He yanked. It didn't come free. And I watched the exact moment it landed on him, that in front of the man he'd been planning to murder, he was the joke. He dropped to his knees, kowtowing. I flicked the spear around, gripped it, and swept him off the boat clean through the canopy. The burning shark was waiting. One bite took his whole upper half. The rest of him bobbed there while the water went red. Himei was screaming now, clawing for the boat. I ignored her. I walked to her island monument, the thing she'd used to smash Hua Qing's whole world. I put my fist through it. Then I bagged up every keystone and every supply she'd stolen and tossed the net onto my yacht. Hua Qing pointed out there was still food. We don't need it, I said. Anything she touched makes me sick. And behind me the shark leapt and took Himei mid-curse, dragged her under before she could finish telling me what she hoped happened to me. The Ice Queen's tormentor, gone, in a red swirl, exactly as far from mercy as she'd left Hua Qing. Hua Qing said we could go. I said there was one more who hadn't been punished. She was confused. Both villains were dead. I pointed at the shark. It almost ate you. So I had Linglong ram it, twice, dented its whole head with 15 meters of universe alloy until it finally got scared and dove and vanished off the radar. Overkill? For the thing that almost took her? There's no such thing. Then we went home. And on the way, in the warm cabin of a boat that shouldn't exist, I finally said the thing I owed her for over a year. Hua Qing, I'm sorry. I was too stubborn. Your father told me everything you went through. From today, I swear I'll never make you sad again. She didn't make me grovel. She just held on and said, as long as I'm with you, none of the rest of it matters. And a giant sea creature immediately body-slammed the yacht and ruined the moment completely. Because this world cannot let me have one nice thing. So we laughed. We ran. We kept going east toward home. Now let me tell you where I started because I think about it every time the yacht hits open water. 4 weeks ago, I was a quality operations specialist who got outthrown by a cardboard box. I lost a fight to my own collapsing hut. I wiped with tree bark and cried over a fishing net. And tonight I crossed 3,000 kilometers of monster-filled ocean at 600 an hour. I pulled the woman I crossed a whole world for out of a shark's mouth with half a second to spare. Then I fed her breakfast and made 2 predators disappear without raising my voice. That's the gap. That's the whole story. One voice in my head that said, sign in, and the stubborn refusal to ever be prey again. I've got Hua Qing back. My father-in-law that almost was is coming home. Ye Liu, Zhao Lei, Sun Ren, Old Yuan the legend, the mercenary, the boss who trades honest, all of them converging on my island right now to build something no lone predator can ever crack. Except here's the thing nobody on that yacht knew yet. While I was 3,000 kilometers away saving Hua Qing, a man with a cleaver was stepping off a boat onto Ye Liu's beach. Pan Jianguo, one of the 4 hallmasters of Emperor's arrival, Guo Tian's people. And he had a knife against my honest boss's throat. She was stalling for time. And the one thought running through her head as she stared down that blade was quiet and small. And it's going to matter more than anything else in this whole story. If it were me kidnapped instead of Hua Qing, would he come for me that fast too? Guo Tian came at my empire with a membership tier. Now his people had their hands on someone I love. He just turned a rivalry into a war. He doesn't even know yet who he picked it with. Ask me again in a minute. Because the poor kid is done being nice, and Emperor's arrival just put their cleaver against the wrong woman's throat. So here's what was happening on that beach while I raced home with Hua Qing. Pan Jianguo, Emperor's arrival's black tortoise, a trained kickboxer with 100 wins, had rowed up on Ye Liu's tiny island and put a cleaver to her throat. And Ye Liu, terrified, did the smartest thing anyone's done in this whole story. She stalled. Then Sun Ren sailed in, expecting a reunion, and walked straight into the knife too. 2 of my people, hostages, and a psychopath eyeing their boats and dreaming of being a pirate king. But they didn't panic. They lied. beautifully. When Pan Jianguo saw the locator dots on the map and demanded to know how they tracked each other, Sun Ren, the legendary academician, played a doddering old man and fed him pure fiction. One-time device, integrates into the tablet after use. When Pan Jianguo asked which of their islands was richest, Sun Ren pointed at a dot 800 kilometers away and shrugged, giving up the location of a place that would take a sailboat 30 hours to reach. He reported it all up to Guo Tian, who nodded along because it fit what he already believed, that nobody out here could possibly have real technology. My whole crew was quietly running a con on an armed man with a blade at their necks, buying time, betting everything on one hope, that I'd come. And Ye Liu, cleaver against her skin, had one thought she'd never say out loud. If it were me kidnapped instead of Hua Qing, would he come for me this fast too? Hold on to that. It's the quietest, most important line in the whole show. I got home first, blew up to my own island in the blue yacht, and found Xiao Yi on the deck of his sailboat, jaw on the floor. When did you get a yacht? Not important. Hei Bao came charging out barking, and my mercenary friend, a man who fights dogs for a living, went pale, and announced he would absolutely not be landing until I called the dog off because my mutt radiates the aura of something that eats commandos. Correct read, Brother Chin. I called Hei Bao down, told him these were family now, and got the news. Ye Liu and Sun Ren had both gone silent. Something was very wrong. No hesitation. I set Hua Qing up as the keeper of my island so someone could hold the fort, left her with Bao and Hei Bao to guard the whole empire. I turned right back around with Xiao Yi to go get my people. Hua Qing finally got to see what I'd built. I wish I'd been there for her face. She wandered off the boat into a world she couldn't believe, a hill, a forest, an obedient war dog leading her around like a tour guide. 5 plots of fruit and vegetables behind a fence, 4 cows mooing in a grade A barn, and when she asked Hei Bao what I mow the grass with, the dog dragged out a chainsaw because, of course, I cut cow feed with a chainsaw. Then she rounded the trees and hit the concrete house, floor-to-ceiling windows, real walls. It finally clicked why I kept saying our base was the island, not a boat. With conditions like this, she breathed, we'd never develop on a ship. Little Bao tugged her hand. Auntie, can Daddy and I live here forever? And Hua Qing smiled and said what I would have said. Of course, we're all going to live here. A home, an actual home, in a world designed to drown everyone. She didn't go inside. She just harvested some ripe vegetables and set them out for when everyone got back, already keeping house for a family that hadn't finished assembling yet. Meanwhile, I was doing 100 kilometers an hour toward the exact moment my whole crew had been stalling for. And on that little island, Pan Jianguo made his one mistake. He decided to tie Sun Ren tighter, which meant, for 1 second, taking the cleaver off Ye Liu's neck. That was all Sun Ren needed. The doddering old academician dropped his shoulder and rammed a 100-win kickboxer 3 steps backward, shook the net off his hands, and jumped between the knife and Ye Liu. Because old and harmless are not the same word, and Pan Jianguo had spent the whole afternoon confusing them. But Sun Ren's a farmer, not a fighter, and his feet were still tied, and Pan Jianguo recovered fast and enraged, swinging a cleaver hard enough to bury it in the sand. Sun Ren rolled. Ye Liu body-checked the man and got kicked down for it. And just as the cleaver came up again, for the killing blow, whoosh! An arrow took Pan Jianguo through the knife hand. Xiao Yi, standing on the deck of a yacht still doing over 100, had put a broadhead clean through the wrist of a man mid-swing. The cleaver dropped, and Pan Jianguo spun around to see 15 meters of impossible blue speedboat bearing down on him, and his brain simply refused to process it. Because you cannot build a yacht out here, and yet, ask me again in a minute how a 100-win kickboxer does against the poor kid who used to lose fights to cardboard boxes. Because he's about to pick the worst opponent on that entire island. Pan Jianguo, bleeding from the hand, did the math the way a fighter does. Sun Ren hit like a truck. The big guy off the yacht was obviously trained. Ye Liu was behind them. So he charged the one who looked like the softest target on the island. The thin office guy standing quietly in front of everyone. Me. I jumped off a yacht doing over 100 kilometers an hour, landed steady between him and Ye Liu, and cut her ropes without even looking at him. He introduced himself, tried to negotiate a proper order of arrival. I didn't answer. He offered me all his supplies to walk away. Not good enough, I said. If you rob people, be ready to be robbed and killed. Then he charged me. Bang! A body flew off the island, splashed into the sea, and sank without a sound. Xiao Yi, a professional, standing 5 feet away, did not even see me move. One kick. 100-win kickboxer, gone, chest caved in, into the ocean. And my mercenary friend just swallowed hard and muttered, "This guy really knows how to pick his opponents." He picked the poor kid who eats magic fish by the kilo and throws grown men across the water. Worst read of his short life. "You saved me again," Sun Ren said, grinning. I told him there's no thanks between us. Then we cleaned up like professionals. We took Pan Jianguo's boat, took the monuments, and here's the upgrade that mattered. I migrated Ye Liu's island monument onto the yacht, which turned my 600-kilometer-an-hour universe alloy speedboat into a mobile base with a working tablet inside it. A warship that farms. I wasn't island-bound anymore. I could bring the whole operation to a fight now. And Ye Liu, watching me do it, felt a little flutter and a little sting, hoping for 1 second I'd hand her the yacht, then quietly filing that hope away when I didn't. She cooked us all dinner in the yacht's kitchen instead. It was so good I threatened to get fat. I told her she was our personal chef now. She smiled and said she'd cook for us every day. She keeps paying a debt I never charged her. I keep not noticing what it costs her. That account is still open. Then we went and got Liang Wei, Hua Qing's father, the man whose company I refused, whose daughter I walked out on. I sailed up, and this time there was no ambush, no shark, no scheme. Just a broken father who'd searched an entire ocean for his little girl, standing on a rock, watching a blue yacht come out of the horizon, carrying the daughter he thought he'd lost. I'd rushed the pickup, honestly, because Hua Qing had gone quiet back home and I was scared. So I smashed his tablet fast and hauled him aboard and didn't even give the reunion room to breathe. But it happened. The family I ran from a year ago, and the family I'd built out of strangers in 4 weeks, were finally on the same deck. A mercenary and his baby, a legend farmer, an honest boss, an ice queen, her father, and me. All of us headed to the same island, home. And out in the wider ocean, my quiet war stopped being quiet. Guo Tianyi posted it to the whole world. Emperor's arrivals Xuan Wu has fallen. Li Ming, Zhao Lei, Liang Wei, Sun Ren, Ye Liu. You 5 are now on the blacklist. Kill on sight. Because when Pan Jianguo grabbed Ye Liu, he'd seen our 5 names in her friends list. And now the biggest faction in the sea had a hit list, and every name on it was somebody I'd die for. The channel exploded. One of Guo Tian's leaders got killed? 5 of them on one island? How does anybody have a yacht? Somebody floated a theory. We were all just gladiators, dumped in the sea by some ultra-rich sadist to fight and die for entertainment. A coliseum with better production values. Nobody could disprove it. Nobody could explain the tablet either. The world stayed a miracle and a mystery, and now it had a war in it, and the war had my name at the top. I couldn't have cared less. Let him post a warrant, I said. Find me first. Because while the ocean argued about me, the last thing I was worried about was Guo Tian. It was the woman I'd left holding my island. Hua Qing, alone, had spent the whole afternoon at war. A 3-meter jellyfish had come from my keystones, and it turned out jellyfish spit acid, and one stream had eaten a hole in her dress and nearly her face. He Bao yanked her clear by the skirt just in time, and instead of running inside, this exhausted, half-drowned ice queen picked up her spear. She fought a running guerrilla battle for hours, jab and retreat, never killing the thing, but never once letting it wreck the foundation of the home we were all sailing back to. When my yacht finally came around the island at dusk, that's what I saw. Hua Qing, soaked in sweat in the cold, spear in hand, He Bao barking cheers beside her, defending our island like it was already hers. Because it was. 4 weeks ago, I stood on 2 meters of dirt and got outthrown by a box. And 100 strangers in a group chat starved in the dark because they never heard the one word I did. Now I've got a green island with a river and a hill. A war dog, a robot fisherman, a universe alloy yacht that eats sharks. A farm run by a living legend, a mercenary and his laughing kid, a boss who feeds us and a father who forgave me, and an ice queen holding my home with a spear. 6 people the sea tried to drown, standing on one island the sea can't have. And a warlord out there who just put all our names on a list. Good. Let him come. The poor kid's done being nice. Emperors. A rival wanted a war with the strongest player in the ocean. They were dumb enough to start it before they ever found out that's exactly who I am. Let them find me. I'll be home. Building. So I got home, and the first thing waiting for me was a monster, and the sight of Hua Qing refusing to lose to it. She'd been fighting that jellyfish for hours, and when I jumped onto the island and called her name, her arms were shaking so hard she dropped the spear, twitching, spent. "You idiot, it's just a keystone. Let it break, we won't lose the whole island." And she smiled at me, exhausted, and said, "No, this is our future home. We fight for every inch." I made her sit. Then I walked down to the water and finally read the thing. Arctic jellyfish, grade B, tentacles that spray acid, which explained the hole in her dress and the fact that a normal person had held it off at all. One clean cut with the sword, and it was 2 halves. She'd survived a B-grade monster on willpower and a spear. I fell for her a little harder standing on that beach. I didn't think that was possible. Then Liang Wei came off the boat, took one look at his daughter, and a grown man, a company chairman, just broke down and cried. "I thought I'd never see you again," she cried back. And then she sneezed. He ripped off his own down jacket and wrapped her in it. I had to herd the whole weeping reunion indoors before winter finished what the jellyfish started. I gave them the tour. I have never enjoyed anything more, because these were people who'd spent 2 weeks on 4-square-meter rocks eating unsalted fish. I walked them through a forest, past 5 plots of farmland, past a barn with 4 cows, and their faces just kept breaking. Zhao Lei stared at my 2 warehouse factories and said, "Dead flat. I bet only you would use a factory building as a warehouse." Yes, we need goals, Brother Chin. Then I opened the door to the apartment, flicked a switch, and the lights came on. That one nearly killed them, because there's no electricity out here. Vehicles and boats generate their own, sure, but a 220-volt apartment? Impossible. Except I'd stored it all in a super battery. So my house had light, and heat set to a cozy 26 degrees. The crew took off their down jackets and immediately gassed the entire room, because nobody but Hua Qing and I had showered in over 2 weeks. I sent them one by one to a hot shower with a hairdryer. Liang Wei went first. Half a month of ocean, washed off in 10 minutes. By the time I pulled out the radar detector that watches 32 kilometers of sea and the little robot that irrigates my fields on its own, Sun Ren just held up a hand. "I don't need you to answer where you got it." I just couldn't hold the question in. The whole crew had gone from shocked to numb. I could have produced a spaceship and they'd have shrugged. And then, while I was off milking a cow, the 2 most dangerous women in the ocean handled the thing I'd been too dumb to even notice. Ye Liu had watched Hua Qing from the second she stepped off the boat, sized up the Ice Queen, and quietly decided she wasn't backing down. And Hua Qing, being sharper than all of us, walked right up to her. "Hi, I'm Hua Qing. Come on, let's cook together." And over a stove, my ex-girlfriend and my former boss had a conversation I would have paid money to miss. Hua Qing asked if Ye Liu was married. No, married to work. Hua Qing nodded. So Li Ming didn't lose out then. Ye Liu froze. And Hua Qing laid it all out, calm as a chess player. This world is different. Li Ming's basically Superman now, and he's only getting stronger, and he's going to meet more and more people. So let's team up. Block the outsiders first, then compete internally. Deal? Then she hugged a completely stunned Ye Liu and set the one rule that mattered. Whatever happens between us and him, we stay best friends. No man gets to wreck our sisterhood. And Ye Liu, who'd spent half a month falling for the guy who mailed her warm water on her worst day, agreed on the spot. I did not learn about any of this until much, much later. I was in a barn, discovering my cow had no milk because she was pregnant, which is its own kind of humbling. I run an empire and I can't tell when a cow's expecting, or when 2 women have just quietly negotiated my entire future over a frying pan. Dinner was the first real meal my whole crew ate together. Roast pork chops, corn, eggs and tomato, cucumber salad, braised eggplant, a vat of fish soup, all of it seasoned, all of it warm, in a lit apartment while the ocean froze outside. I raised a cup of S-grade purified water and welcomed them home. Then I tossed a whole pork chop to Hei Bao, and the entire table stopped breathing. Hua Qing leaned over. Do you know how many people would kill each other for that pork chop? I did. I threw it to the dog anyway. I don't care about their lives, I said. Hay bow's more useful than most of them. The dog barked in agreement. The crew sighed the sigh of men who have just watched a mutt out-earn them and got back to eating. After dinner, I did the thing I'd been building toward without saying it out loud. I handed out jobs. Sun Ren, the legend, ran agriculture. Xiao Yi, the mercenary, ran security and daily monster defense. Call me if it's too big. Liang Wei, a man who climbed from nothing to CEO of a real company, ran production and planning. Hua Qing and Ye Liu ran logistics and worked the tablet for every scrap of useful intel. And little Er Bao raised his hand asking for his assignment. So I gave him the most important one on the island. Study. Pick a teacher, any of us. He saluted like a tiny soldier and the whole room kick-sided. Up. I was in charge of direction, and my call was final, and nobody argued. 4 weeks ago, I lost a fight to a cardboard box. Now I was handing an academician, a mercenary, and a CEO their roles in my company. They were saying yes. Sun Ren pushed back on exactly one thing. He was right. When I said I'd try to give everyone high-rank food, he shook his head. Who needs a stronger body most? The ones defending the island. Give the S-grade food to Li Ming and Zhao Lei first. Balanced development is a mistake. Liang Wei backed him instantly, the CEO brain kicking in. Don't spread resources thin. Concentrate them on the shield. So that became law. The fighters eat first, because when the sea sends something with teeth, they're the ones standing between it and everyone I love. And the sea was about to send exactly that. Because winter was closing in, the water was starting to skin over with ice, and the forest I'd let grow into a paradise had just evolved its first apex predator. Ask me again in a minute, because the next morning, Hay Bao's bark wasn't about a fish. It was about a tiger. A Siberian tiger. On my island. That's what the forest gave me for letting it grow. I grabbed my sword and ran out with Zhao Lei behind me, and there it was, staring down my dog, white forehead, eyes like lamps. The guidebook read it out for me. Grade B Siberian tiger, and this time the label didn't just say, be careful, it said extremely dangerous, because rank isn't everything. A B-grade octopus is a nuisance. A B-grade tiger is the king of every land animal beneath it. Say more, completely different sentence. And my body, juiced on magic food, was sitting at roughly that exact tier. For the first time, I'd met something on my own island that could actually kill me. So we didn't do it clean. We did it as a team. I want that on record, because this is the fight where I learned I'm not a one-man army. I charged, faster than Zhao Lei could follow, and the tiger matched my speed, the first thing I'd ever met that could. Hay Bao flanked. I slashed. The tiger read all of it and picked the weak link. It went for Zhao Lei. He's a mercenary, not a superhuman. It raked 4 bloody lines down his arm and shrugged off his dagger, so he made the call that saved us. It wants me. I'll hold it, you kill it. And he meant it literally. He stopped dodging, let a tiger pin him to the ground with claws in his shoulder, took the worst of it on purpose, so that for 1/2 second, the king of beasts forgot about me. That 1/2 second was all I needed. Hay Bao took a tail whip like a steel bar and went rolling. Zhao Lei's dagger opened the tiger's paw to the bone, and I put my sword through its neck and out the top of its skull. It bled out on my beach with my mercenary's blood still on its claws. When Sun Ren and the others finally crept up and saw we'd killed a tiger with a sword and a dagger and a dog, their eyes nearly fell out. Tiger slaying is a thing that happens in old legends, not on a Tuesday. But I wasn't feeling legendary. I was doing math. My body's only about even with a B-grade tiger, I muttered. Without Zhao Lei throwing himself under those claws, without Hay Bao harassing its flank, I don't kill that thing. I win it. I don't dominate it. That's a very different feeling, and it's the one that keeps you alive. I washed Zhao Lei's wounds with S-grade water, healed the dog, and told the crew to skin the tiger carefully, because we had leather machines now, and winter was coming, and even a king of beasts makes a very warm coat. Then the world did the thing the world always does the second you get comfortable. It raised the difficulty. Ye Liu came sprinting. Marine animals are attacking, and it's more than one. I ran back to find 2 keystones under attack at the same time, which had never happened, not once. One for me, one for Zhao Lei. We split up, handled them, both low grade, easy. But I stood there afterward and did the ugly arithmetic. When it was just me, the sea sent 4 attacks a day, one of them ranked. Now there were 6 adults on my island, and I was suddenly getting hit 2, 3, 4 places at once. The pattern was obvious, and it was cruel. The world scales the danger to the number of people you're protecting. Bring your family home, and the ocean sends more teeth. By Xiao Yi's count, we were looking at 24 attacks that day. 24. I'd naively thought more hands meant an easier life. The world heard that thought and laughed. But here's what the world got wrong about scaling me. It also scaled the crates. More people, more danger, more supply crates washing up, and I'm the guy with the only fully automatic fishing net in the ocean, hauling 8 a day while everyone else fights for one. My whole crew watched that robot cast a perfect net over and over while they slept, and Xiao Yi just shook his head. You fish 24 hours a day. Who could ever keep up with you? Nobody. That's the point. The sea can throw 24 monsters at me a day. It can't outproduce a machine that never sleeps. And winter kept tightening. The forest dropped its leaves overnight. Food got scarce, which meant more desperate animals coming from my walls. The public channel was one long shiver. The sea's freezing. There's ice on the surface. Anyone got a spare down jacket? I'll pay in supplies. So Sun Ren, the man who once fed a nation, came to me with a plan that wasn't about surviving winter. It was about beating it. Plastic film, greenhouses, grow multiple crops a year while the rest of the ocean froze and starved. 100 square meters of plastic per plot. I only had 400 units of plastic total because I'd never bothered hoarding it. So I did what I do. I opened the store. Boiled water and sea fish for plastic, quietly, at the top of the trading hall. And this time, someone was watching my every move. Guo Tianyi saw me start buying plastic, thought about the keystones, thought about the metal shards, ground his teeth, and started buying plastic too. He didn't know what it was for. He just knew that every single time I cornered a resource, it turned out to matter, and he'd been burned enough to stop betting against me. My rival had been reduced to copying my grocery list in the dark, hoping to guess the recipe. He'd put my name at the top of a kill-on-sight list a day ago. And now, he was frantically stockpiling plastic because I sneezed near it. That's not a man hunting me. That's a man who's realized, too late, that he's been playing catch-up with the strongest player in the ocean since day one. Let him stockpile. Let him post his warrants. My island was a lit, heated fortress with a farm, a barn, a radar net, a war dog, a tiger skin coat drying in the factory, and 6 people who'd finally stopped running. Winter could come. Emperor's arrival could come. The sea could send its 24 monsters a day. We were home now. And home, it turns out, is the one thing on this whole ocean I will burn the world down to keep. Ask me again in a minute, because the deeper winter got, the clearer it became that the freezing sea wasn't just weather. It was the next test. And this one was coming for everyone at once. Winter turned my island into a full-time job. It also handed me a power plant with a face. It started with Xiao Yi on the ground, twitching, babbling, "Electricity! Electricity!" Something in the water was frying my keystone. The guidebook read it out. Electric ray, grade B, normally 80 volts, this one up to 1,000. A living taser the size of a coffee table. He'd stabbed it with his dagger and taken the full jolt through the blade. And where a normal person would see a monster, I saw an appliance. Because I have no shame and a permanent electricity shortage. I speared it with an iron spear, which is wood shaft, iron tip, basically an insulated handle. It zapped uselessly around the spearhead while I carried it home like a grocery bag. Then I had the crew dig a 3-meter pit, filled it with seawater, and dropped my new pet in. And here's the part I'm proud of. I gave it a taste of S-grade purified water, and the half-dead ray perked right up and chugged it, because even a fish wants to level up. So I ran a wire to my super battery, poked the ray. It discharged a full day's worth of wind power in one jolt. I rewarded it with more S-water. Poke, zap, water. Poke, zap, water. Until the thing figured out the deal on its own and started generating electricity voluntarily, just diligently powering my island in exchange for the good water. I domesticated a grade B monster into a subscription service. It stopped attacking my keystone and started paying my electric bill. Absolutely disgusting. I mean that as the highest praise. Then I made the mistake of walking into my own forest, and my forest tried to eat me. Again. Sun Ren and I went foraging, because winter was killing the food supply, and a man who once fed a nation can find dinner in a dead bush. And he did, instantly. Mushrooms, black fungus, morels, bracken, then a whole tree of ripe persimmons. We were about to climb it when the ground shook and a grade B brown bear came out of the trees, 2 meters tall, 400 kilos, and this time the guidebook flat out said extremely dangerous. I put everyone up the tree and met a bear paw with a running chainsaw. The paw won the shoving match, my whole arm went numb, but the chainsaw opened the paw to the bone. And the bear did not run. It kept coming because I found out later that persimmon tree had a beehive in it, and the bear had been fattening on that honey for hibernation, and a bunch of humans climbing its food tree read to it as a robbery. So it ignored me entirely and went up the trunk after my people. I did the only thing left. I ran up behind it and drove the chainsaw straight through its back. Then I held on for dear life while a dying 400-kilo bear rampaged through the forest trying to shake me off. It couldn't, because I eat magic food by the kilo. That is the only reason I'm telling you this instead of being a smear on a persimmon tree. It dropped in under a minute, and I lay on the corpse breathing hard and admitting the truth to myself. I got lucky. Head on, that bear might have had me. I'm strong now. I am not yet untouchable. That gap is the most important thing I know about myself, and every monster the forest evolves is closing it. But we came home rich. A bearskin coat's worth of hide, a tree of persimmons, a pile of forest mushrooms, and, best of all, that beehive. Captured whole while the bees were too cold to fight, which meant honey and pollinators for my new greenhouses. The forest tried to kill me and paid me for the privilege. And while I was wrestling bears, my rival was busy proving exactly how far behind he'd fallen. I needed a specific blueprint, a wire blueprint, the non-wearing kind, so I'd never have to hunt for it again. It turned up in the trading hall for a down jacket. I moved to buy it. So did Guo Tian. And this is the trade that broke him. I offered the seller a down jacket plus 200 grams of grade B tiger meat. Guo Tian doubled his own offer. Then the seller told him the competing bid included tiger meat, and Guo Tian just stopped. Because in his world, there are no tigers you can kill. A B-grade tiger is a thing that eats people, not a thing you butcher and trade. He decided I was obviously running a scam and actually told the seller, "Go ahead, take the fake tiger meat deal. Enjoy getting conned." So the seller nervously asked me to prove it. I sent the item card, old tiger meat, grade B, because the tablet doesn't lie, and the man's eyes fell out of his head. I got my blueprint. Then I blocked him for being greedy, because I don't do repeat business with people who try to nickel and dime a guy who kills tigers. And on his island, Guo Tian sat there with the confirmation and finally said the quiet part to himself. Is the gap between me and the top tier really that big? Yeah, buddy, it really is. You put my name on a kill-on-sight list 2 days ago. I'm out here eating the tigers you don't believe exist. That wire blueprint lit up my greenhouses, which mattered because winter was closing like a fist. The sea was skinning over with ice. The channel was one endless shiver of people begging for down jackets and accidentally setting their own tents on fire trying to stay warm. I had lit, heated glass houses growing crops while the rest of the ocean froze. Sun Ren even found us soap berries in the forest, nature's shampoo. I have never seen two women light up like Hua Qing and Ye Liu did at the promise of finally washing their hair. Small thing. Half a month without shampoo is not a small thing. My island had gone from survival to genuine comfort, and comfort out here is a kind of power nobody else has. The cost of all this was written in the daily attack log. With 6 adults home, the sea now sent 24 monster attacks a day, up from my old 4. Xiao Yi counted them, confirmed my theory to the number, and spent every daylight hour running from keystone to keystone with a spear and a dog. The world scaled its violence to how much I had to protect, but it scaled the crates too. 39 supply crates in a single day, a number that would have been science fiction a week ago, all of them hauled in by the one automatic net in the entire ocean, while everyone else fought the ice for a single box. That's the whole equation of my island now. The sea sends more teeth because I have more to lose, and I outbuild the teeth because I have the one machine that never sleeps and the one guidebook nobody else can read. Let winter come. Let Guo Tian gnaw on his tiger meat epiphany. My greenhouses were green. My battery was charged by a domesticated monster. My crew was warm and fed, and there was a bearskin coat drying next to a tiger pelt in my factory. But ask me again in a minute. because the colder it got, the more I realized the freezing sea wasn't background weather. It was winding up to do something to the whole ocean at once. And when it finally hit, it was going to separate the islands that were ready from the islands that were about to become graves. Then the double buff came back, 10 days late, and turned my whole crew into Ultraman. But first, the lights. A crate finally dropped a fluorescent lamp blueprint. I lit the greenhouses, and the recipe needed tungsten, which nobody had ever mined, except me, because I had 10,000 metal shards in a warehouse, and metal shards substitute for any metal. The panic buy from 3 weeks ago, the one Guo Tian funded with his own guild's treasury, was now literally lighting my winter crops. Xiao Yi just shook his head. You really were prescient. I wasn't prescient. I could read a label, but I'll take it. Meanwhile, my cover was blowing. The guy I'd bought the wire blueprint from bragged on the channel about eating my grade B tiger meat. He got flamed for lying and proved it by posting our chat, which still had my ID on it because in my rush, I'd forgotten to go anonymous. Wang Jian. Suddenly, the whole ocean knew the tiger-hunting big boss had a name. It was the same handle I'd been posting under looking for Hua Qing. Overnight, I went from anonymous trader to a brand. Wang Jian, I'll have your babies. Boss Wang Jian, I'd trade my life for a piece of that meat. Standard channel behavior. I did not read a single one because I was in my living room chatting with Liang Wei. But someone read them very carefully. Guo Tian. He connected the dots, realized Wang Jian was the same guy who'd blocked him, out-traded him, and killed his hallmaster, and decided if he couldn't beat me, he'd seduce me. He held an internal beauty pageant, an actual pageant, and sent the winner, a woman named Liu Yan, to video call me and pump me for information with her cleavage. She leaned into the camera all sultry. Big boss, I've admired you for so long. I looked at her for about 1 second, blocked her, and muttered, not even as big as Ching Ching's. Then I went to sleep. On her end, Liu Yan sat there stunned, wondering if I was gay, because no lonely island man had ever hung up on her before. Guo Tian's master plan, a honey trap, defeated by the fact that I was already home with the 2 most dangerous women in the ocean, who had, unbeknownst to me, already divided me up between themselves over a frying pan. Those 2, by the way, spent that night giggling in my bathroom over soapberry shampoo like it was Christmas. And when I stumbled in half asleep to use the toilet and walked in on Hua Qing mid-shower, she shrieked me out. Then Ye Liu, pretending to be asleep on the living room floor, deadpanned, "So you cheated on me with food," and the 2 of them dissolved into a tickle fight. I have never in my life felt more like furniture in my own home. I have never been happier about it. And in the morning, the slot machine paid out big. Double buff, active, sign in. Bodysuit, SS grade 6, doubled to 12. And these things changed everything. Skin tight, self-fitting, constant temperature, self-cleaning, and armored. Winter solved. I walked outside in near zero cold in what looked like a leather catsuit and didn't feel a thing. Hua Qing took one look and called me Ultraman. Little Bao started doing hero poses, going bew bew bew, and I handed one to every single person on the island, because I had 12. My mercenary put his on and immediately understood what it meant. I can guard the keystones no matter how cold it gets. Yeah, and more than that. Because that same day, a grade B sea crab came from my keystone, and Xiao Yi went to fight it. It snapped his iron spear like a toothpick and clamped a claw around his arm with enough force to crush bone. And nothing happened. The bodysuit held. A B-grade monster squeezed his arm with everything it had, and he felt a gentle pressure, then drove his dagger into its soft belly and killed it. He stood there afterward staring at an unmarked suit that had just no-sold a crab that snapped steel. He got it. We weren't just warm now. We were armored. The sea could keep sending its 24 monsters a day. My people could tank them. And the double buff kept printing. I captured 4 wild boars alive in a net, and the buff made it 8, and one gored me with a tusk, and I felt nothing through the suit. Heibao's overnight fish haul counted as mine and doubled into 20,000 kilos of sea fish, a number so stupid I laughed out loud. Then I walked the fields and the forest and doubled every harvest. 200 kilos of rice, doubled, every fruit and vegetable, doubled, until both my warehouse factories were literally overflowing with food. Sun Ren watched me pull double the grain out of a field he'd personally measured and quietly decided to stop asking how. Smart man. Sometimes playing dumb is wisdom. He did have one sharp idea, though, and it's the one that turned me from a rich hermit into a public power. You're doubling everything today, so sell some ranked food. Not A grade or above, keep that. But the periodic stuff, list it. Pull in keystones from everyone who just heard how good B-grade tiger meat is. So I did the thing I'd never done. I went public. I posted to the whole channel as Wang Jian. To thank you all for your support, my team is releasing some ranked food to help you survive the winter. And the ocean detonated. The big boss appeared! He's bringing ranked food! I wasn't a rumor anymore, or an anonymous trade. I was Wang Jian, a name with a team, a brand, releasing survival to the masses and hoovering up their keystones in exchange. I'd become the closest thing this drowning world had to a government, and I'd done it selling doubled tiger meat out of an overflowing warehouse. That's where I was, 4.5 weeks after a cardboard box outthrew me. Armored crew, public name. A rival reduced to sending me pageant winners and copying my shopping list. A warehouse I couldn't fill fast enough. And a domesticated electric monster charging the battery that lit the greenhouses that fed us through a winter that was killing everyone else. But the disaster movie we'd watched the night before wasn't just a movie. The channel kept saying the sea was skinning over with ice, and every instinct I had said this cold wasn't the test. It was the warm-up for the test. Somewhere out there the temperature was still falling, and when it hit bottom, it wasn't going to just freeze the water. It was going to freeze the whole ocean solid. And a frozen ocean means the one thing every island out here has been safe from since day one stops being true. You can walk to it. Ask me again in a minute, because the day the sea turned to ice was the day the monsters stopped needing the water, and the enemies stopped needing a boat. So on my one double buff day, I stopped being a trader and became the closest thing this ocean had to a king. I went public as Wang Jian and started selling ranked food, and the channel lost its collective mind. 50 milliliters of C-grade water for a keystone, gone in a blink. Grade C blueberries, 100 sets, gone. Another 100, gone. Tiger meat and bear meat at 20 grams a keystone, 500 sets, 1,000 sets, sold out in 10 seconds flat. Because I'd taught the whole ocean through one bragging customer that ranked food makes your body stronger. And in a world where a stronger body means you live, that's not a luxury. It's the only thing worth buying. So they emptied their pockets. Every keystone they'd scraped out of the ice, they handed to me for a bite of tiger. And Guo Tian sat on his barren rock, watching me flood the market with blueberries and freshwater fish and B-grade meat, and drew exactly the wrong conclusion. He must have found a native island. He genuinely could not imagine that all of it, the fruit, the fish, the tiger, the bear, came from one island. My island. He was still convinced I'd stumbled onto some magic paradise, while I was the paradise, sitting in a heated apartment doubling my own harvest. He put my name on a kill list a week ago, and he still didn't understand the first thing about me. When the dust settled, I counted. 14,000 keystones from the trades, doubled by the buff to 28,652. Enough land to turn my island into a small country. I actually got dizzy looking at the number because 4 weeks ago, a keystone was a rock I bought off starving people for a sip of water. And now I had a pile that could build a city. I talked it over with the crew. Sun Ren laid out the case. The risks were real, but the gap was ours to widen. We voted to grow. I dumped the whole horde into the ground, and my island exploded to 31,000 square meters. From 2 meters on day 1 to a 200-meter-wide kingdom on day 30. The tablet still called it a small island. The tablet has a sense of humor. And then the last day of the 3rd week arrived, and the system handed me a fortress. Sign-in gift package. And I want to read you the manifest, because this is the moment my island stopped being a farm and became a stronghold. A building upgrade card, which turned my apartment into a fully furnished modern farmhouse. 450 square meters, 5 bedrooms, so my crew finally got real beds instead of the living room floor. An S-grade poultry farm and an S-grade livestock house, soundproofed, hyper-productive, so I'd never wake to roosters again. A steel structure warehouse, 1,600 square meters of it, to hold the food I couldn't stop overflowing. And the one that made me jump out of my chair. An S-grade fence, 4 meters tall, terrain adaptive, 4 automatic gates, and a built-in electric grid, an electrified fortress wall. On the exact day I heard the theory that the sea was going to freeze solid and let things walk to my island for the first time since the world began. The system doesn't read minds, but it timed that gift like it did, because winter finally stopped being a threat and started being a fact. I walked outside to open crates and a snowflake landed on my Ultraman suit, and within a day the snow was a meter deep. It kept falling. The channel turned into a mass grave in slow motion. 10 centimeters and rising. I'm freezing. I'll trade everything for warmth. I should have bought a jacket when Wang Jian was selling them. People who'd survived the flood, the sharks, the heat, the raids, were now quietly freezing in tents. And I was planning a 450 square meter farmhouse with an electric wall. The gap between my island and everyone else's had become the gap between a civilization and a graveyard. So I did what a king does with a fortress and a blizzard. I built. I marked out a 2,500 square meter compound for the electric fence to protect. I put the whole crew to work in meter-deep snow, clearing trees and rock to replan the entire island from scratch. Warehouse in the southwest by the sea. Farms in the northwest, away from the bedrooms. Fields, barns, coops, all zoned like Liang Wei, the CEO, wanted, all inside a wall that could kill anything that touched it. My people grumbled about digging in a blizzard and then did it anyway, 6 hours straight in the cold, because I told them on day one my word was final, and they'd watched me earn it every day since. And I stood in the falling snow, in a bodysuit that didn't feel the cold, looking at a 200-meter island with an electric wall going up around a heated farmhouse. I thought about the guy who lost a fight to a cardboard box. 30 days. That's all it took. 30 days from a torn net on 2 meters of dirt to a warm fortress, an academician's farm, a mercenary's guard, a CEO's logistics, a domesticated monster on the power grid, 28,000 spent keystones of land, and a name the whole ocean whispered. Hua Qing back at my side, Ye Liu cooking in my kitchen, a little boy learning his letters by the fire, a father who forgave me, warming his hands in a house I built. But the snow kept falling. I knew, the way you know a storm before it breaks, that this wasn't the winter test. This was the wind-up. Somewhere out past the white, the sea was skinning over thicker every hour, and when it finally locked solid, every rule this world had lived by would change at once. The islands would stop being islands. The monsters would stop needing the water. And the biggest faction in the ocean, the one with my whole family's names at the top of a kill-on-sight list, would suddenly be able to march across the ice to my door without ever touching a boat. Let them come. Let the sea freeze. Let Guo Tian march his whole army over the ice. They'll get to my wall, and they'll find out what the poor kid who got outthrown by a box built in 30 days. And they'll find out he's been waiting. But the sea didn't lock all at once. First it just snowed, and snowed. And while it buried the rest of the ocean, I rebuilt my whole world in an afternoon, in front of a crew that thought they'd seen everything. I slapped the upgrade card on my apartment, and because I'd used it directly, the tablet gave me one shot to redraw the entire island layout. So I did. And the crew, scattered around doing chores, watched reality rearrange itself. Hua Qing and Ye Liu were cooking under a shed when the shed, the stove, the whole apartment just vanished, and a farmhouse kitchen swallowed them. An old village wood-fired pot and a full modern range fused into one impossible room. Liang Wei was dragging a crate when a 450 square meter courtyard house bloomed where his bedroom used to be. Sun Ren felt the greenhouse lurch under his feet and ran out to find the barns had teleported. Then I dropped the steel warehouse, 1,600 square meters, 9 meters tall, straight down over Liang Wei's head. And 1 second he was standing in falling snow, and the next he was inside a sealed factory blinking at the roof. They kept asking how. I kept not answering. Some things you just let your family stop trying to explain. Then I raised the wall. 4 meters of S-grade fence, electrified, 4 automatic gates, snapped up out of the ground around a 2,500 square meter compound in a single boom. Sun Ren turned around, saw a city wall where a fence used to be, and said the truest thing anybody said all winter. I have a feeling that whatever we're lacking, Li Ming can just get it. When Zhao Lei came back from monster duty, the gate scanned his face and fingerprint before it let him in. My island wasn't a farm with a fence anymore. It was a walled town with a biometric door and a lethal perimeter, and a heated farmhouse in the middle where a little boy did his homework. Meanwhile, the world outside my wall was quietly dying of cold. -12 degrees, snow past 2 meters and still falling. And the channel had figured out the grim little strategy that would define the week. If you had enough keystones and enough food stockpiled, you could just not come out. Hole up in your shelter, ride out the freeze, never face the sea monsters at all. Which meant for the first time, food and water were about to be worth more than ever, because a whole ocean of people was about to hunker down and stop foraging. So I raised my prices 20% and let them scream about it. And they did scream. How can the big boss be so greedy? He doesn't even need the money. He should just give us food. And some anonymous soul in the channel said the thing I'd have said myself. He didn't force you to buy anything. With his resources, he could ignore all of you and do just fine. He decided to sell, and you're complaining? Careful he doesn't just pull it all off the shelf. Exactly. I'm not a charity. I'm the only functioning economy in a frozen sea, and the door swings one way. They kept buying. Of course they kept buying. When it's -12 and you're in a shed you've patched 4 times, principle is a luxury you can't afford. I turned everything into keystones. 10 down quilts we'd barely used, 15 keystones each, gone in seconds. An electric blanket and a battery I had 0 use for, listed for rent, because you can't even run them without a generator nobody else has, so renting beat selling. And then I remembered the 3 starter houses I'd built for the crew before the farmhouse existed, just sitting there empty. So I went on the channel and offered to sell houses, actual houses, to people living in leaky sheds. Anyone with high-rank items, I'm selling houses for keystones. The channel nearly died. The big boss is selling houses? I've never even seen a tent and he's offloading a stone house? I got so many desperate DMs I had to shut off private messages and just post the terms publicly. 2 wooden cabins and a stone house. Keystones and S-grade items only. Don't waste my time. And Guo Tian, my rival, the man who blacklisted my whole family, spent that entire cold snap doing one thing: buying my leftovers. He bought my down quilts. He bought a wooden cabin off another survivor for a fortune. And every time I sold surplus, he built the same wrong story in his head. That I must be losing people in battle. That all this gear must be dead men's belongings. Because he still could not accept that one island simply produced this much. He'd figured out just enough to be terrified and not nearly enough to understand. He knew I had a generator now. He knew my island got attacked only 2 or 3 times to his 1. He knew the gap was enormous. And his response to the strongest player in the ocean was to keep buying that player's used blankets and pretend it was strategy. Even the fish turned into a flex. My AutoNet's overnight haul dropped from 50,000 to 5. I thought the cold was killing production until I looked closer and grinned. 90% of what it caught now was ranked. The ordinary sea fish couldn't survive the freeze, but the grade C and grade B fish could tough it out, so the ocean was helpfully filtering my catch down to only the good stuff. Winter was culling the trash out of my supply chain for free. Even the apocalypse works for me if you read the label. So there we were, at the end of the 3rd week. A biometric walled town, a steel warehouse, a farmhouse with central heat and 5 real bedrooms and a courtyard greenhouse. S-grade barns full of chickens and cows and 8 reformed wild boars. An electric monster on the power grid. A domesticated economy of thousands paying me their last keystones through a blizzard. And a family, warm, fed, safe, sitting down to dinner in shirt sleeves while the temperature outside fell and fell. Somebody on the channel asked me, half desperate, how the big boss planned to survive the coming week. And I gave them 4 words that broke the whole channel in half. I have a house. Because that's the gap, all the way down. 30 days ago, I was an office guy who lost a fight to a cardboard box, freezing in an empty crate with my legs hanging out the end. And tonight, a drowning ocean was begging to know how a man could possibly survive the winter. And my answer was that I had a house, a wall, a family, a warm room. In a world where every one of those things is a miracle nobody else could build. The snow kept falling. The sea kept skinning over, thicker every hour. I knew that when it finally locked solid, the islands would stop being islands, and the water would stop being a moat. Guo Tian's army could march. The forest's monsters could roam. Whatever the fourth week's test was, it was going to arrive across the ice, on foot, at a wall I'd built exactly 1 day too early to be an accident. Let it come. Let the whole frozen ocean come. I've got a house. I've got a wall that kills what touches it. And I've got the one thing this world has never once managed to take from the poor kid who got outthrown by a box. Everything I love, behind me, and warm. Ask me again in part 2. The winter's just getting started, and so am I.